Yes, good evening, folks, and welcome to the regular select board meeting this Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. If you'll join me with the pledge, we'll begin the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll open the meeting with the orders or, whoa, I had them, but I don't know. You sign those? No? Okay. You sign.
I did.
Orders are being circulated for signature. And while we're doing that, the minutes of September 27th are in front of you.
Move we approve as printed, other than it being teeny print, but that's okay.
Motion's been made to approve as printed. Did I hear a second? Second. And seconded.
Was it gonna kill me?
Are there any additions, corrections, deletions to the minutes of September 27th? Hearing none.
I've got them all, and Kurt has too, so you signed it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I haven't signed it yet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. I'll circulate those for signature. Any board members have any announcements this evening? Good evening, Joe. Welcome. Yes, I'm remiss in saying that the 4 select board members here present and Joe Donato joins us virtually on the Zoom call. I have one I'd like to read. This is addressed to the town of Rutland. Big thank you to residents, select boards, past and present, the office staff, past and present, the road commissioners, highway employees, past and present, the police department, and transfer station employees. It has been a great career. I have made a lot of friends over the years. Thank you again for everything. Walt Tripp.
That's nice.
Any more announcements? Board members? Hearing none, this is the opportunity that we give our citizens and any other visitors an opportunity to either address the board, question the board, or make any presentations. So if there's anyone who is not on the agenda that would wish to address the board, now is the time.
Just gonna say who I am. I'm Kyle Medash. I'm with the Vermont DEC, and I came with Barbara to talk about river corridor regulation and flood hazard area standards. I think that was something the board.
Okay, well, that would be a schedule thing, and I will bring you up
Perfect. I was just
on the schedule.
Perfect.
Okay, this is for extra people that aren't on the agenda. Yes, Chuck,
Hey, I'm Chuck Hall. I
Could
run
you-
the Sonoma.
could you come up so you can, I know you can be heard, Chuck, but we have this recording system here in the town so that you can be a part of posterity.
Yeah, no problem. So I run the Sudoku on Route 7 South in the town.
And as you're aware, it's a troubled spot for pedestrians. A lot of major events have occurred down there in recent months and years. I have an employee that lives on the other side of Route 7 that has to walk to work, and she plays leapfrog daily. She was stopped once and asked to use the crosswalk. There is no crosswalk available to her. I went down and surveyed the intersection of Cold River Road, Aldi's, and Route 7. There's nothing for a crosswalk for Route 7. For some reason, they put a crosswalk across Aldi's driveway with the walk and don't walk signs. So they're already in place. There is a crosswalk for Cold River Road with the signs, with the push buttons, and they're in place. Everything's in place for this to be a real easy fix. Their curb cut is already done on the south side of Aldi's and Cold River Road with a slant for handicap and strollers and stolen shopping carts. And so everything can get across the road there. So the only thing that really needs to be done is make sure the sync is done right on the lights. The wiring's already there to put in a push button, and somebody put white squares down. I think that would help resolve some of the issue. And it'll also, give the town something to say that they're doing something to correct what's going on down there. Because as of right now, the only place they can cross is in the city at Curtis Avenue, or walk all the way down to Hannaford's across. And we all know society's not the most ambitious type person in the world. So I would hope the town would look into at least putting a crosswalk at Cold River and Route 7 at the light. Everything's in place to do it. It should be a rather real easy fix. It's on the south side of the Cold River Road and Aldi's, and it would work perfect right there
Okay,
because there's nothing now.
thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? Mary?
Comment.
I do,
that
Don.
The state's highway,
Okay,
so the state has to approve it. We had, when we put Joe's on, Joe DiNardo is also our highway guy. But we had approached the state some years ago when we put the sidewalk down from, well, along Cold River Road to that intersection. It was all engineered, as you said, it was made so that it was wheelchair accessible, and the next step was for the state to put a crosswalk in. So this reminds us that the state hasn't done it and we need to nudge them again. We've also approached the state, actually jointly with the city, to do something about the speed limit on that area because we were having so many accidents. The State Transportation Board turned us down.
but I think speed limit's not the issue down there, though.
The crosswalk, yeah, I agree with you. We
Speed
need one.
limit's only going to punish the honest people. It's, timing, pedestrian crossing.
Mhm.
And, the ones that are crashing are, usually have a substance abuse issue, assigned to the incident. So, but I think, I just wanted to bring it up. And if you could, if there's like you said, Mr. DiNardo is the rep, maybe he can put a fire under them to get it rolling again. So we can try to do something to.
Chuck, I'm on the highway committee for the town, not for the state, but if memory serves me correctly, when the sidewalk was in there, we asked for a crosswalk, and I almost think the state said they wouldn't do it. And I don't know, I can't remember if that's accurate, but we will pursue this and find out if it can be done. But they are real finicky about putting crosswalks across Route 7. So this is going to be an uphill battle, I think, but I think we can try. The good part of this is we have statistics to prove that it would be much safer for pedestrians now that a couple of people have, we've had those incidents down there that have been unfortunate. So maybe they'll wake up and see that this is would be smarter to just do the crosswalk. But I do believe they pushed back when we asked for it the first time.
Well, thank you though for looking into it. That's all I can ask.
Yep.
And hopefully the state realizes they're part of the problem down there by providing all the people that are hanging out. But
Thank you, Chuck.
yeah, thank you folks for your time.
And
Chuck.
you mentioned lighting a fire under them. Well, Joe happens to be also he's in charge of burn permits, so he should be able to do that.
That's random.
We'll work on it.
I saw where he was going. He didn't set it up very well.
No, I didn't. I'm really bored now, but I'm no match for you.
Bye, Chucky.
Everybody, thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Have a good
Chuck.
night,
Is there anyone else, either on the Zoom call or here in the audience, that would like to address the board? Yes, Randall,
Randall Smathers, representing Rutland Free
Yeah.
Library. I'm here with Joe.
come on up. Well, both of you come up at the same time. That's why we have two chairs.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, up to you. Hey, you start and then I'll fill in if I need to.
Delighted to be back again. Thank you for the invitation. I also wanted to just thank everybody one more time for the terrific time we had at the barbecue and swimming pool, and to the road guys for getting the bike up there and back. It's a great toy. I'm not sure I want to do Post Road Hill in a 300-pound bicycle. I brought along a little fact sheet, some information, some areas we can certainly cover tonight whenever you want to. Just a little background. It discusses our budget, discusses how we are supported. And on that, just one little piece of information. I know your budget season is coming up. Typically, the way our budget works is we start with the city, who is our largest single supporter, and they give us a margin that we try to work within. So I can say that this year our budget request will be not more than 5%. That is the ceiling that the city has given us. Doesn't mean that's what it'll come in at, but it does, for your budget work, it gives you something you can start with. And as soon as we get through the finalizing the process a little bit more, I'll have a formal follow-up that I'll send along to the board. But certainly happy to answer any questions. And Joe, did you have anything you wanted to
I'm just here
share
to
with?
no, I'm as of right now, I'm as a Rutland Town resident, as someone who serves as the Rutland Town representative on the library board. The people of Rutland Town have always been so generous and so approving of the work we do, and we'd like to continue doing that. Our budget, as it stands and as we're working with this year, reflects a lot of what we're trying to do with the library and how we're trying to now reopen after the last couple of years and go back to the expanded programming that we used to be able to have, that quality, high quality programming that is for everybody in the community, not just seniors, but also for community organizations such as the Boy Scouts, as well as, parents, lots of young parents. I know that as a father of 3 young kids, being able to go to the Fox Room, be able to take my kids there and to experience the programming there has been something so incredibly valuable to their education as they've grown. And it's a community building piece as well. I know so many parents who utilize that space to not only, help their children, but to help themselves, because so much of being a parent is finding other parents to work with and talk to and work your way through life and the craziness that it all is. As we look forward at our budget, we really are just trying to expand that programming to make it more valuable to everybody. The library is more than just books. It's more than just audiobooks. It's more than just access to the internet. It's more than just a place for people to gather and congregate. It's so much the community. And it's something that I believe is so valuable to every single citizen of Rutland Town, as well as every single citizen that's part of the consortium that attends Rutland Free Library.
Thank you, Joe. Questions, board members? Yes.
Yeah.
Sarah.
I'm going to tell you real up front. I love a library. I love the smell of a library, of books from the library. I brought my kids to the library growing up. My concern this year, and I've talked to the fire department, the police department, is to keep the budget as low as we can.
Mhm.
We're in a recession. So this year, I'm just asking people to try and accept what they have last year. I know that's hard, but I also know that we have a responsibility, the people of the town that have to pay taxes. So if at all possible. That's I personally would like to see.
Mhm.
So that, you know, keep it what it was from last year, and hope to God by next year, we're not dealing with COVID and we're not dealing recession, and, you know, it's just, and believe me, I truly believe in you folks,
Mhm.
but I also believe that, you know, people that are retired, I being one of them, are pretty much retired. I have to cut back a little bit. So I guess that's what I'm asking. I don't know what, Kurt, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying to toe lines and budgets for sure. You know, we got.
Yeah,
we
I
gotta keep
just,
things.
I don't-
Unfortunately, we have. You know, there's things that we can't control, and prices are increasing on certain things, but we have to try to
right.
find other places to toe a line.
Yeah, I mean, if it's fire and it's a safety issue, we have to go with it. If it's police and it's a safety issue, we have to go with it. Or I think we should be morally responsible to go with it. Books, I think they're very important. I think it's very important to little ones that can't get a book at a store and buy it. So I don't want you to think I don't support you. I do.
Mhm.
But I am, right this year, I am, you know, I've talked to fire, I've talked to police, I've talked to recreation, and they have all agreed, you know, to keep that budget as much as close to last year as they possibly can.
Sure. No, and I appreciate that. Where we are right now in the conversation with the city, if we come in at 5%, any lower than 5%, we will need to cut hours. Staffing, we are at a level where I cannot cut back and have a safe building. We have an agreement that we'll have 3 people in the building when it's open to the public. It's a big building, I'm sure you know, 25,000 square feet. And so if we do have to cut farther, we will need to cut back on hours, because a lot of our hours we're running at essentially minimum staffing.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate, you know, your budget realities. I would just point out that 2 years ago, in COVID, with a concern, and particularly for this community's budget, and the fact that you derive so much from rooms and meals tax and local options, that we brought in a 0% budget. We flatlined our budget when almost everybody else was going up 3% and 4%.
And I appreciate that.
And so we're really cognizant of the budget realities of the communities we serve. We did just finish a CBA, a contract, and we have a 3% base increase plus a 3% bonus. So it doesn't escalate as rapidly as it would if we had agreed to a higher flat percentage. And so we're doing everything we can to control our budget. Like I say, at 5%, I wouldn't have to cut hours. And so that's kind of where we're starting.
Joe, you have any comments, questions?
I think that the only comment I have is I believe these folks are here because of a conversation this board had at the last meeting, where we just started the discussion about changing the library's funding from being one of the items on the ballot to including it in a budget, or making them jump through some hoops. And I think we need to address what we started talking about so they have some idea what's going on. I mean, I personally oppose any idea of including their budget into any of our budgets, because that's not proper. That wouldn't be a proper way to do it. And I'm still a firm believer that the voters of the town are the ones that should decide whether we grant them the required funds that they have. And that's what March balloting and March voting is about. They ask us for an amount of money that's on those appropriations. And I still think it's up to the voters to say yes or no. And as long as the townspeople support what they're doing and what they're asking for, then that amount will be approved. And it needs to be stand on its own merits. and it needs its own place to be said yay or nay. I wasn't comfortable with the conversation we started 2 weeks ago, and I thought about this quite a bit in there, and I figured we were going to talk about it. It is item C, I believe, on our old business, the Social Service Appropriation Policy, and I don't want to single any agency out and make them jump through any more hoops than anybody else. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to clarify,
Sorry.
excuse me. Just to clarify, Joe, when I brought that up, I did not single out the library. Now, it may be obvious to people that because the library is approaching that amount, that obviously it's directed at them. But in fact, it really is not directed at the library. It's directed at financial and fiscal integrity of the town. When any budget that is presented as an extra request of the taxpayers at the end of the ballot, which typically gets unanimous support, we have very seldom disapproved any of the items. Many of them have some negative responses. The library, probably because of the amounts involved, has always had the largest number of negative votes, even though it usually passes. It didn't always pass, and one of the reasons that it didn't pass was because it was accelerating at a larger amount than any other item on that list. So it was my desire to have the board enter into a policy discussion as to whether we would set an outside limit of how much money any agency could request of the town before we went to another level than just putting it as one of 15 or 20 items that people basically go down through and pretty much check off without a heck of a lot of scrutiny. And I understand the library's position that because that happens, that they have always had community support. However, with the number and the percentage of people in the town that show up at town meeting to vote, which is seldom over 35, 36, 38% in a March election, that 60-40 margin that the library passes on represents only about 25% of the voting public in the town of Rutland.
Mr. Chaffee, if
And
I may.
I, don't interrupt me while I'm speaking, please. And I, as a select board member and every other select board member here, we're not elected by 25% of the population of Rutland Town. We're elected to represent 100% of the people in Rutland Town. And when any budget, yours in this particular case, approaches $100,000, it becomes essentially another department in this town, because we have departments that don't have $100,000 budget, that we spend hours and hours and hours of committee time and full board time approving that budget prior to submission to the people for approval. Now, if we're going to spend that kind of time with other people's budgets, we really should spend that amount of time on your budget, but we have no input to your budget. No, we as a board have no input to your budget. We have had no input to your budget. And we have had no liaison input to your budget. No, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. That's just a fact. And that because that's the way you operate your own board and present your own budget. Now, I'm under the understanding that you had complete negotiations with a union.
Yes, we just finished our contract negotiation.
Right. Are you at liberty to tell us what percentage increase you arrived at as a solution to your negotiations?
Yes, we got a for this fiscal year, we got a 3% increase plus a 3% bonus. So it would not, despite inflation, it wouldn't drive our base salaries up. And then for FY24, it is a 5% cap regardless of how high inflation goes. And that is actually dependent on cities. How the city's negotiation goes with their AFSCME local. And then the third year of the budget, it is a 3% cap. So we felt, given with 8.3% inflation, that coming in at 6, no more than 5, and no more than 3, that we had a really careful budget again this year. We have run on average 2% less than inflation for the past 4 years running. So it's not like we're out spending money like mad. Any public institution is expensive to run. We run a very tight ship, which actually, to your point, is hurting us a little bit this year, because
I'm sure.
if we had some fat in the budget, it would be easy to cut.
I know.
But I
know, and I understand
we've done a really good job year over year over year over year. And so when we do have a bad year like this, it's extremely difficult to find anything else in the budget.
Well, there's, there's budget realities, there's ideologies, and there's philosophies of governance. But you identified it correctly, Randall, is that once you're in a government institution, there seems to be, and there has seemed to be over the last decades, nothing but increases in budgets. And it's obvious to every single individual who's listening to this discussion that inflation has not allowed the average citizen to keep up with the budget increases that are taking place over the general cost of government. And that being the case, there has to be, at some point, someone that says, this is the limit. We are not, well, let me say this. This is only my personal opinion, because I've directed the department heads and the committee chairs entering this budget process to ask the departments to level fund their budgets where at all possible, every single line item, to justify every single line item and level fund it. And the reason that I did that was because this town, in a very unique situation among all towns in this county, has provided a significant tax reduction in property taxes to our taxpayers this year, amounting to approximately 5%. That's unheard of. That represents $100,000. That represents $100 reduction for every $100,000 of assessed value to our taxpayers in the town. I can tell you that I would not be recommending, nor would I condone any department head in this town this year recommending a 5% increase in their budget. I will not back that. And I will not back that publicly. That being the case, you're not one of our departments, but as I said, the amount of money that you're requesting is equal to what we would have in some of our departments.
May I be heard? You've called on everyone else. Yep. Thank you. I agree with Joe. The best democratic tool we have is to put a budget for any of our service organizations, put a budget on the ballot and let the voters decide up or down. That's pure and simple. You folks have to sell why you need whatever budget increase it is. And I think you have information. I've seen it in the past on your website. you certainly can come and go over your numbers with us if that would be helpful to you. As far as I'm concerned, however, you are an independent standalone organization, as is the ambulance service, as is Wonder Feet Kids Museum, as is Rutland Mental Health, and so many of the other services that come in and do ask for appropriations. The point I think Joe made, and the one that resonates with me, is that we should not be treating any of these service organizations differently. They should all be justifying their budgets and why they need an increase if that's what they're requesting, and let the voters decide, putting it on the ballot, an up or down vote.
And I would just like to clarify one thing. Dawn, you said that the town doesn't have any input on our budget. We've had at least one out of two Rutland Town representatives on the Finance Committee for at least a decade now. At one point we had two, and we only had a 3-person Finance Committee. So both Anita Dutch and Ed Gorzalak, they shaped our budget. They were the folks who were at the table.
I understand that, Randall, but this is why, I had hoped the discussion wouldn't have gone this way, but that's just me. This was supposed to be a policy discussion of the board and the board's prerogative, not to be intervened by by the agency. And the fact of the matter is that your board representatives have never been appointed by this select board, who was elected by the people of the town of Rutland. And your board, specifically, most of your trustees, if not all of your trustees, have been picked from a very liberal element in society. And that's a natural thing, because education tends to be, as we know, throughout the country, pretty well organized and run by a liberal establishment. That being the case, the elected representatives of the town have not had input. And not only that, but this board does not have the appointment authority. I happen to read on the other side that we actually do, but we've never had.
John, can I just ask a question?
Yeah, I wasn't
Randall, do you
aware until last year, until we had this discussion last year. I was never aware that our representatives weren't appointed by our board. I find that democratically inappropriate in terms of the amount of money and the representation and the input that we would have, because we are the ones that are elected to speak to the people. And we have had no say whatsoever in who represents us on the library board.
Well, to finish the thought, I was before you started talking there, to finish the thought that I was going to, yes, you do have approval authority, appointment authority for a position. And in fact, we are currently looking for someone to replace Ed Gorzalak, whose term expires in June, and we would be delighted to get some suggestions. In particular, we are looking for somebody with a financial background, because our treasurer is moving up to be the president of the organization. And with any board, you want to have a good mix, and certainly having people who have good financial backgrounds is important to us. You had a question?
Yeah, Randall, and I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I didn't mean
that's
to.
what I'm here to answer questions.
Is it all possible you can go back and look at your budget and see if there's anywhere at all that you can cut back that 5%? I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, would you be willing to look at it again? And I'm not asking you to decide it now. I'm just asking if you'd take a second look and see if there's anything.
Well, and like I said, the 5% at this point is a cap. The way it typically works with the city is the mayor tells me what his target is, his or hers. At some point in the future, we may have a female mayor in Rutland. That'd be awesome. But the mayor gives me a budget target. Hopefully that's close to what my board wants, because the board, I present the budget, Finance Committee goes through the budget with a fine-tooth comb. They present it to our board votes on it. And in a perfect world, that's more or less what the target is.
Okay.
The fact of our budget is, and I touch on it in here, all of our materials and programs are paid for by our endowment. It's $200,000. It's more than twice what the town pays. And that's great because it lets us buy lots of materials and provide lots of programs. But it does mean that about 90% of our remaining budget is staff, either direct salaries or benefits. And so will I go through it? Yes, almost undoubtedly. The chance that the city would give me a number and that's the final number we'd wind up with is unlikely, especially in a difficult budget year. Typically, I go through the budget 3, 4, 5 times. So the first draft is 5%. I would expect it that I will review it.
And that's all we can ask.
Absolutely. And like I say, I mean, the reason we started there is because we won't have to reduce services if we can stay at 5%. If we have to cut, we will have to reduce services.
I understand. I understand.
Now, Randall, there were statewide ARPA funds that were specifically directed at libraries.
Yes.
In addition to that, have you made any requests of the city for city ARPA funds, which have pretty much no limitations to them, the way the municipal funds were directed is pretty much like revenue sharing. It was made very clear to me very early on that because we had our own ARPA funds that the city had other uses for the rest of their ARPA funds.
I would think.
We did get, and the way the libraries got ARPA funds was the state got a bucket of money from the federal government and they allocated it based on the size of the community and the relative need. So as a result, Rutland got the second largest group of ARPA funds. We got about $45,000 spread over 2 fiscal years. The limits on that were pretty closely defined. They wanted us to spend money on equipment. We couldn't touch the building. We couldn't touch staffing. So we replaced some 10, 12-year-old computer equipment that was nearing the end of its life or past in some cases. And it was a really useful way to spend money because major computer purchases, when they hit the end of their lifespan, it's a big chunk of money to replace all at once.
Right.
So the timing was actually pretty good for us. We didn't spend it frivolously, but it was the city, their $4 million. I think they could have spent 3 or 4 times over with the requests they had. So they were very happy we got money from the state. And
You know, I know where you're coming from.
sure,
I ran the open door mission
I
for
know.
37 years and our budget was tough. I did not go on the tax rolls. I did mass mailings and requests for money, and that helped. Because the burden on the taxpayers is tough, and I understand that. I also understand where you're coming from, and you have to pay, you have to pay all of your folks.
right.
That's
And-
going up.
And as happened with the mission, when times are bad economically, demand goes up for the library.
Yep.
And this board last year asked for a count of how many users we had. We're up to 1,438 registered card holders in Rutland Town, which is roughly a third of your population, a little over a third of your population are active card holders with us. So we are providing services to Rutland Town.
Oh, I know you are.
individuals in the town.
I understand completely.
Yeah, and that demand is going to go up when times are hard. Demand on computer services, for instance, people decide that Netflix is a step too far. Maybe they should borrow their movies from the library. So your answer is absolutely yes. We will go through
All
the
we can
budget
ask.
more than one more time.
Yeah.
And I would be very surprised if the final request is 5%. Knowing how much I'd have to cut, I hope it's more than 0.
Well, I'm not asking you to go to 0.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. But we'll see when it finishes with the city where their comfort level is. We do respect that all of our towns are on a slightly different, everybody has their own concerns. The city pays 8 times as much as the town does. So they get first say.
Further comments, questions from the board?
Thanks for coming in.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
We really
Thank you for having
appreciate it.
us.
Take care.
We're still in questions or comments or from individuals who are not on the agenda. Dana, were you here for us for planning commission stuff or, oh, okay. Hearing none, we'll go to department head reports, and our first report will be from Ed Dumas, our town police chief. Good evening, Ed.
Evening. So the first thing is calls for service. I think the total was 95. It seems like a higher number, but we did a lot more traffic stops this time around. Mainly in the south end of town, if you'll notice that. We did have 21 calls for service in the south end of the town. But we only had I think, how many thefts we had? We had one retail theft, a petty larceny, and we had 2 felony retail thefts. And that's it. So we went way down on the thefts happening in the south end of the town.
Ed, what constitutes a felony offense for?
Felony is if the statutes, you had to spend more than 2 years in jail, 2 years or more in jail.
Okay,
So a felony retail theft would be anything over $900. That would be considered
Okay.
a felony.
okay.
It used to be 100, but they've raised it up to 900. So
Okay.
doesn't matter what I think. The other thing was on Monday. It was a holiday, this Monday, yesterday. So I decided I'd come in and work on my budget, try to do some work, and immediately I had 5 retail thefts down at, not 4 retail thefts at the plaza. So I said, heck with it, and went down there. So I didn't have any more retail thefts. We only had one, somebody did it right in front of us. So he got the Bozo Award and got a citation for it. He didn't see us sitting there apparently, so. That's all I have. We'll probably try something new. It seems like as long as we're there, things go down, but as soon as we leave, things pick up. So I got a few other plans to work on in the next months, and we'll see if we can't.
You want to
shake things up.
relay any comments from the business owners or
Yeah,
managers?
all the businesses, starting from 2 weeks ago, actually were doing things in their store and not having to babysit every customer that come in so they wouldn't be stolen from. They were more than happy to see us there. Everybody who signs on goes and says hello to the businesses, or at this point in time, we're texting them, hey, we're on duty. Have any issues, call us. Yeah, they were a lot of good comments from the public that saw us down there. Some didn't like us, but most did. They asked me how many officers it take to watch the plaza. I said, at the time we had 3 of us there. I said 3. So
Probably the ones that got nabbed at the traffic stop coming in from the outside.
yeah, probably.
Any questions of the chief, board members?
Are calls for service different from directed patrol?
Yes, we'll start the traffic stops and directed patrols is something we set ourselves.
Okay,
So to keep track of our time at the plaza, what we do, we'll do a directed patrol. Now does 2 things. Number 1, it keeps track of our time. Number 2, let's state police know, hey, we're down there doing the plaza thing. I had a conversation with the lieutenant for the state police here also, and he says, well, whatever you're doing, it seems to be working. As his troopers are not getting called down there as soon as we go off duty.
okay.
This was actually, Mary, suggested by our town attorney in order to keep the directed patrols and the traffic stops in the southern sections, separate accounting based on our discussions with the Cortina people.
Mhm.
So we have that documented. And it appears to be working.
It does.
Good.
Good. Anyone else? Questions? Joe, you all set?
Yep, I'm all set, thanks.
Sharon? Good? Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next report is Mike Delehanty, Town First Constable.
He was on there earlier.
It's me, I don't.
Did he get
Yeah,
caught?
Mike. Mike, you on there? Oh,
Maybe you gotta speak louder.
There he goes.
you there,
So-
Mike?
Yeah, hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's yeah, your treble is right up there high.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'm headed to Northwood through the gate, so I'm driving that direction. So if I lose you, I apologize. But I'm just gonna kind of repeat, obviously, what Chief Dumas had to say. We've been spending a lot of time down at the South End. I was down there with Chief Dumas last night, and he's right on. You know, they're kind of getting smart down there. When they see us, they know to stay away. But as soon as we leave, they start entering these stores. So we're going to put our heads together, get creative, try to do a few different things, but just continue to provide that service on the South End, because it truly is working. And the amount of people have come up to me, whether it's store owners or employees or general public, just really appreciating the fact that we're down there. The numbers are huge. So we'll continue doing what we're doing, and hopefully continue to have some success.
Great.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
Mike,
Oh, can you hear me?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, I was in Price Chopper yesterday, and this little lady was in back of me, and she was having a heck of a time lifting something out of her cart. So I lifted it out, and she went on to tell me how what a nice little lady I was. And then she was telling me I had my jacket on. She said, "Oh, you're in Rutland Town." I said, "Yes." So she proceeded to tell me that she had a grandson that was a police officer in Rutland Town.
Yep.
Who would that be?
That would be your grandmother.
Yep. 91 and going strong.
God bless her. I mean,
Absolutely.
the box was bigger than her that she was trying to lift out of the cart. So
I have
she
no.
said, "Well, you're
I
not
have
any
no-
bigger than me." Nice little lady.
Yes, she is still working 6 days a week.
Is she really? My
Yes,
gosh.
she is.
Well, she's sharp as a tack.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what
I told her I would tell you I had met her.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Live and TV.
It's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
She's cute as a
No.
button. She was shorter than me.
So there you go, Mike.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Well, thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys all soon.
Okay, Mike, thank you.
Thanks.
John Paul Faignant, our town health officer, public safety building clerk, and with, I think, a good report on that. And second constable. Good evening, JP. You let Mike take care of it?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess I won't, maybe I'll bring that up. Wait. Next report,
Well, can I just say, I have a request.
sure.
For the next meeting, could we get an update on where we are with the public safety building?
Well, I was gonna give that. I thought JP was gonna give it because I just got a mail. Let me then interject, if I might. Since you asked. I think it should be public information in any case. This is an email that we got today, or that JP got today, from Edward Clark. And it reads as follows: JP, have you heard any comments on these contract forms? We are hopefully getting this wrapped up and ready to bid soon. I have planned a design team coordination meeting for next Monday, after which I hope we can have a final owner review meeting. We just got the geotech report back, see attached email. so the structural engineer can do his foundation design. Still waiting for sprinkler design, but I don't think that the structural should take that long. Once I have a better handle, I can update you on the bidding schedule, but I hope by the end of this month, about a month behind, which should not affect the overall desire to start in the spring. Let me know on the contract forms. Thanks, Ed. And JP responded back to him, hi, Ed, I have forwarded to town council for any input. I'll get back to you as soon as I hear. Thanks.
Okay.
So all of that information is in the hands of Kevin
Yeah,
right now.
I have heard, questions about what does this thing look like? How is it configured? And we really haven't seen any, any kind of drawings in quite a long time, which is why I asked. And I noticed that we did just approve a couple of payments for our engineer, one for 12,000, one for 16,000. So I'm assuming
Well,
they're getting close to something that we can look at.
I would say we are, and, obviously, as he said, we're looking at the end of the month for completion, so should have it. But that's all I have, and now that's all you have. Let's leave it at that. Our next report is Chris Clark, our town fire chief. And Larry Delveneri, our deputy fire chief, will be sitting in for Chris. Evening, Larry.
He's on a bus heading back to Rutland, so.
Oh, good.
Okay, last couple of weeks, we've only had 3 calls. Nothing major. Chris told you, I believe, at the last meeting that engine 3 is in service. So it's out there running.
And everybody's trained.
Pretty much, yes, pretty much. There's still ongoing training on that. Just to keep up with it. So, we're all set right now. I sent in, or Chris did, bylaws. And Sharon and I went over the bylaws and had a call from Mary today. Nice call. And I want her to explain.
Yeah. Well, just so everybody's aware that I went through the proper chain of command and I called Sharon first.
And I asked her to call Larry so that I wasn't given secondhand information to
Okay,
him.
so, and it's very simple. Here's my question. You have a 1-pager proposed additions to Rutland Town bylaws, and it's some protocols for responding to fire calls.
Yes.
Which is fine. I have no problem with any of them. My only question is, do you really want to add these to the bylaws, which then have to go through the select
Said the
board
same thing.
anytime there's a revision? Or is it okay just to do a policy internal to the?
What did you
department?
call them? SOPs?
It'd be SOPs or SOGs.
SOGs, yeah.
SOGs?
Gs
What
are
do they,
recommended.
what does that stand for? Your acronyms?
Standard
Union operating
operating.
procedures.
Oh, I see.
Procedures or
Okay, well, that's
guidelines.
normal.
And SOGs are guidelines.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I do
So,
SOPs.
when we're doing something like that, we always want a guideline.
So you could just maneuver that to the
We-
SOPs,
Apparently we can. I didn't know
Yeah.
that when Mary called me.
Okay.
And it's,
and it would,
it's a
would
good
less tie
idea.
your hands.
Pardon?
It would less tie your hands waiting for
Well,
response.
What I would like to do, I'd like to table this if I could.
Mhm.
Until the next meeting. I'd like to talk with the fire chief on
There
this.
you are.
And
Motion would be in order.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Dell, I don't know, I haven't looked over the fire department bylaws in years, but I don't know if there's other things in that bylaw that
there
could get moved.
these are
over.
ones the insurance company brought to our attention.
Yeah, I
So-
didn't know if there was other things in there that would,
There
could get
probably is.
moved into
There
Well,
probably
SOPs.
that You would go back and take them out as bylaws and make.
So
them the SOPs.
I'll talk with Chris. We'll sit down and then
Yeah.
we'll go back to
Good,
the
yeah.
committee, sit
Yeah,
down
then will
with
you
them.
come back to me so I know?
Yeah.
Not a problem.
That way we're not having to dictate how you operate on fire scenes, that's
Exactly.
100% in the chief's hands.
I understand that. I just
Right,
want
and
to bring
he
it
said,
back to
he
the
explained to me, when you're at a fire scene, the fire chief is in charge.
fire chiefs in charge.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, when you're at a fire scene,
Pardon?
when you're at a fire scene, the highest ranking officer of the town of jurisdiction is in charge.
That's right. That's
It
correct.
happens to be just a firefighter, he's in charge.
He's in
It happens
charge.
To be a
He's a
captain.
senior, yes,
in
until
charge.
somebody gets there. No, let me bring these back to the chief and we'll talk it over and we'll get back to you.
You got it.
And we're talking about budgets. Again, and I'm gonna bring in the fire department budget, also the transfer station budget. The price of fuel is going crazy.
He'll yell at you.
The price of fuel for a gallon of heating fuel today is $4.90.
Yeah, it's went right back up.
It's going right back up, and I'm told by reliable sources that our gas will be close to $6 by the time they're done here.
As in
Okay.
propane or
Or gas.
This is
for the vehicles?
Gasoline for the
gasoline
vehicles.
for your
Oh, gas,
vehicles.
okay.
It's
I already saw it out here
Oh, yeah.
from this morning to this afternoon.
Yeah.
last week in Maine, I paid $3.33. I got back here and it was $3.59.
Yeah.
So,
In California, there's places where it's approaching
$8.
$8.
so I just, again, I got calls into my people and they're telling me it's going to go up, but we don't know how much.
I don't think anybody does know.
No, so
Question. But it's also a police question.
yeah.
And that's, should we budget in this coming budget for dispatch services? And if so, what? Because we're caught in this place where the state isn't going to do it. Is it going to hit this coming budget year? Or do we have another year? And,
I think they,
okay, so, well, we're putting together the budget for 23-24. So that's kind of why I'm asking if you have any idea, because we would obviously have to plan something for it in the budget if it's going to hit.
And then what do you plan is the
Exactly.
wouldn't you think, the state is driving this truck right now. Wouldn't you think that they would have to give
driving it
enough?
right off the bridge down, so. they don't-
Well, they got to give the towns enough leeway to be able
Not
to
going
fund
to.
this thing. They can't just, you know.
Well, I could tell you that from last year's budget, which we did last November, I'm gonna be over. Because my prices went up. On the fuel. I used to pay 110. Just for a pickup for the compactor and the heavier stuff. I'm up to 150 right now.
Hmm.
The lighter dumpsters, I was paying 105, they're up to 120. Now with this fuel price going up, I don't know what it's gonna be. They don't know what it's gonna be. So it's gonna be tricky to,
Have you contemplated a punch card increase? Well, that
I've went
puts it,
around to looking at other towns and stuff.
yeah, it puts it more. Well, it puts it more in the realm of a user fee.
Yeah.
Rather than putting the burden on the whole town. So, I'm just asking if you had.
Right now, I'm the
considered that.
highest in the,
No,
land.
okay.
I'm tied with Hubbard Brothers. We're
Yeah.
getting $3 a bag.
Well, we're also the best run transfer station in the county too, so.
Thank you.
You
No,
know,
I just
get
want
what
you
you
guys
pay
to be
for.
aware of what's going on out there.
Yes,
So,
please.
because we will be bringing it to you. I know you want a flat budget. It may be hard with these. fuel
I
prices.
gotta tell you, you go up to, and I gotta watch my mouth, because if I say dump, he'll take my head off. I go up to the transfer station and my God almighty, that's cleaner than most people's kitchens. I mean, it's really, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
So as soon as I get prices from them, I'll let you know. But I don't know when they're going to get back with us.
Okay, but if it looks too bad, I would strongly suggest that you look at the user fees because I don't think
I will sit
think
down.
most people mind paying
I'll
for
sit down with Kurt and
what
we'll
they get.
see what we can come up with.
Even if it's only minimal, you can project it over because you know how much revenue you get from that. So
I do.
it's easy to figure. Okay,
I'm all set if you're all set.
questions for Larry?
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Can I ask something?
Well,
This
sure
would
you
be
can.
for all the departments. and I don't, so I'm asking, you probably are gonna know better than most. Would it behoove us to have a gas pumping station it wouldn't?
I've been saying it for years. Yes, we do. We need to have tanks.
Okay, because wouldn't that would save us money?
I
It
paid
would pay for itself.
last week. I paid that was 20 cents under pump price for my fuel delivered to my yard on road.
So
And
would
the
it be,
town's tax exempt, so you
would
get,
it behoove us to have you look into it and what it would cost?
yeah, you put 1,000-gallon tank up there at the highway garage, and you put a locked door on it that the fire department has a key to. You put a little clipboard in there with a sheet. When you go up there, get fuel, you write it down. Somebody goes through the sheet. You
Just
know
like
which-
a lockbox
You
is
know
on
which
it?
budget you
What's
pull
the
that.
price differential that you can get on that?
I mean, I paid like 25 cents under pump price for on-road diesel fuel. That's less than what it costs at the gas station. Plus the town's tax exempt, so you're gonna have all that off too.
Do we need a motion to have Kurt look into it, or can we just?
No, if he wants to look into it, he can look into it and bring it to the board and,
got
you know,
Gas.
Gas is trickier. Well, my mom used to own a car dealership in Clarendon. They had a gas tank that used to cost more than pump price. There's not as many people delivering gas anymore.
Don't you have to bury that too?
Gas.
You have to bury the gas.
Gas you can put above ground, but there's different places where you can put it, and there's some because gas vaporizes, so it's a little
so you're
Little
talking
fishier.
fuel oil or diesel?
like
on it?
diesel fuel.
Diesel, yeah.
Yeah. Then
Well-
the fire trucks drive to the highway garage. The highway trucks fuel at the highway garage. All that.
So are they all diesel?
But for the most part,
Okay.
yeah, all those trucks.
I
are
would,
diesel.
I would think it would
Yeah.
be,
Keep on those gasoline above tank. I had one up there at the state. And you just can't keep up with they change regulations
Yeah.
every year. You just can't,
Okay.
it's expensive.
There's
So if we took ours out up there at the state.
there's some fuel companies out there that will maintain the tank for you.
Oh.
So you can look into that too. They'll supply the tank and maintain it.
get some information so we can consider it.
Right.
I think it's a valid,
I've been trying
I
to
think-
push for it for a long time.
yeah, well, I
See
think
what you
that's,
can find out, Kurt.
Yeah.
I think it's worth looking into. What do you think, Mary?
Yeah, I'd be aware of the hidden costs, as Del said.
Right,
Some of
and
those-
that's what we have to
Yeah.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dell had his hand up.
I'm all set.
Okey-dokey.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
okay, next report would be Dave Sears, our town road commissioner. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, all.
We've been fairly busy. Went down to Portland Glass, had a manhole cover that was pushed off by a plow last year. They called us and we went down and put it back, glued it all back together. Formula Ford, there was a lot of erosion at the end of their driveway from runoff from their driveway because it all runs downhill. So we spent a day down there. Looks really good now, but we rip wrapped everything and it's armored the whole thing, and it should solve that problem. We spent a day clearing beaver dams.
And as soon as you left, they started rebuilding.
Actually, they vacated. I'm not sure why, but they did. So there was
Oh,
one on
that's
Post Road right across from where Casella just did that Velcro job, and they actually filled the culvert. It was like a 30-inch culvert that was full right to the top, and we got it all out of there somehow, and water's running free and that whole thing. The Town Line Road culvert, Fuller went up there and put a shim over that. I don't know if anybody went up and drove that, but there was on the northbound side, there was kind of a drop when you came into that culvert right there. You know, the whole thing needs to be paved, and when we're all done next spring, it'll be nice. But because we kind of left it the way it was without, if we were to go to the south, we were going to get into the Carrington's driveway, and I didn't really want to have to deal with that this year and next year. So we just paved where they did the excavation. So there was kind of a drop in. So he went up yesterday and kind of cut it back a little bit and repaved it and took that ugly hump out of it. So that's for that. And then we spent the last 3 days on Quarterline Road, trimming back the roadsides and chipping brush, and we managed to make it in 3 days from the dirt section to the Route 4 bridge. Kept us busy. And then today the chipper went down. So we ordered parts for that, and we'll get that back up and running. We'll be back in business. And that's kind of it. That's where we is.
Questions?
Anything?
It is wild and woolly down my end of town.
We're getting there.
No, I know, and
Yeah,
and I
no,
appreciate
it's
so.
everywhere. There's a
Thank
lot
you.
of stuff we gotta get this thing going.
Yeah.
We'd be busy.
Any others? Questions?
Um,
Comments?
this morning I met with Dave and, we discussed the, sander that's on the 350. It's got some problems with it. It's an older sander. And, so Dave would like to replace that sander. He went to the, did you go through the website, Dave? I think of the state, but anyway, there's a state contract, state bid process, the same way that we did the purchase of the 550, and the town has bought a fire truck that way through the state's bidding process. And he got a couple of prices that, do you have those numbers, Dave? I forgot to write them down when we had things, because I figured you'd have them
Yeah.
with you tonight.
I got
Okay.
a price from Viking.
They're in the minutes, yeah.
Oh, okay. I got a price from
Okay.
Viking for $10,450. I called Champlain Valley Equipment, who was on the state bid website, and they were $8,500. And then we called Earl's, and they're on the preferred vendor list, and they were $5,700.
So after a long discussion this morning of about 10 minutes, or maybe even 5, I would make the recommendation, and I would make this as a motion. We have basically satisfied the town's putting out the bid by going through the state's process. They've already done the bid work for us. And I would recommend that we purchase a Western sander. This will be an electric sander. It will come from Earl's Truck Repair for the $5,700, and that's the installed price. Gives us local purchase, local repair, local parts. I think that's favorable. And also, this would be paid for out of the depreciation fund as we're replacing the sander. And then disposal of the old sander, whether we sell it or however that goes, whatever monies we get for that would go back into the highway depreciation fund. And I would make that as that should be as a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded that we approve the allocation of $5,700 or not to exceed $5,700 for the replacement sander from Earl's Truck Repair. Is there any, and there's second?
There was a second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a
I
second.
did.
Are
Yeah.
they putting a
Discussion.
second battery in that truck? Because I think that truck probably only has one battery, being a gas engine. And with electric sander, electric plow, you're gonna want 2 batteries for sure.
I can ask them that one.
Okay,
Get to that point.
and then
What-
I got one question for the board. So we're replacing a sander with depreciation money that already purchased a new sander for the F-550.
No, I
Because that-
don't, yeah, maybe did, yeah.
Well, the
Go ahead,
F-350 was supposed to be the new F-550 was supposed to be the replacement for the old F-350, but we never got rid of that truck and we kept it. Normally the depreciation funds replace equipment, not purchase and add equipment.
Yeah, I think that was a board decision to hang on to that truck. We made that decision last, November or December. And it was when we were that, and now I understand that we did go differently than what was originally planned. I don't know. This has happened before in other departments where, monies were spent on a replacement vehicle and then the old vehicle was kept, out of necessity. And I think that was the same way we did this. We felt that that was necessity. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I understand the policy on the depreciation fund to restrict it to simply replacement as opposed to purchase new. I didn't know.
The past precedents have always been you're replacing equipment with the depreciation funds, not adding to equipment. Like Mike Rowe guy's new zero turn and he replaced the walk behind. A fire truck, you replace a fire truck, you don't add a fire truck.
But we did.
But I did, and I agree with Joey, because I remember we did
in
when that came up.
1980, the fire department purchased a new engine one with the understanding the old engine one would leave. And the department said, well, we ought to keep this because the town has a lot of money invested in it. And at the vote of a monthly meeting, the fire department kept that old Ford engine one, and we expanded the fire department by one engine, and which has got us to where we are. I mean, in hindsight, it was a very favorable decision to do that, and we've kind of done exactly the same thing. We felt there was a need within the town to keep the 350 last year, and as it has turned out, that has turned out. It is different than what the normal policy is, but I do believe the board made the decision to do that, knowing full well what we were doing.
Yeah, I remember that, Joey, and I agree with you. I do remember that coming up.
That's fine. I just wanted clarification on it.
We took it and we will endure whatever consequences.
That's
No,
fine.
but that's
I
a
just
good
wanted
question.
to clarify all that.
That was a good question, but I do remember.
Dave, do you know?
It is a legitimate,
Joe.
Kurt's question is a legitimate question because
Yep.
normally that is the procedure that is followed, but in certain times, there are extenuating circumstances that make doing something a little different that ends up being more beneficial to the town than to sell a vehicle. And
My
that's
What's a
recollection
depreciation
is
fund?
we hung on to the truck because we thought temporarily because we were having problems with the other truck that was coming in.
And we were in
Now
that
it's probably a good idea that we've hung on to it for yet another reason. Yeah.
Right. And also, Mary, if you remember, the discussion was that because we were short one person last year, if we found that we needed a part-time help or something, we would be able to hire somebody that could drive that truck that didn't necessarily have a CDL. Those were the logical reasons for keeping it. And then as we've moved forward with the highway department, we have found that it is going to be beneficial to us to keep that truck. And we did make an alteration to the normal way of doing business, but it was in the town's best interest.
Okay, well, that's behind us because we have a motion and the motion has been made and seconded. We're still in discussion and I would still like to ask the question, what was the depreciation fund and what is it now after we would take the 5,700 out of it? Joe, do you know what it is?
I do not. I didn't think to ask Kari that. And I don't have a town report in front of me that would tell me what it was as of June 30th. But I do believe there should be 5,700 in there.
Is there any further discussion
I'm gonna
on?
walk out and get a town report,
No.
which we'll have. I think the town report's there.
Mine
Well,
has
but that
walked
doesn't-
out of my office.
That doesn't have current though, does it? Have we
No,
taken?
that's as of,
It would be as of June 30th, 2022. Because that's, the town report comes out this fall. No, it would be as of June 30th of 21. And then there would be probably a deduction for whatever the other truck was.
Yeah.
It'll be close. It'll be close.
Well.
December pay appreciation accounts.
Yeah. Our statement. Tax rate. Okay.
Not in the highway budget.
So highway, it's page 43. Highway balance, well, this is as of, Don's right, it's as of 2021.
Right.
Balance then was 284,605.
Yeah.
All right. And
So-
I don't believe, Mary, that we took $284,000 out of there to buy a 550 Ford.
No, I'm pretty sure we didn't.
I think we
So-
might be in the 85,000 range. And then there would be contributions to that fund in September of 21, January of 22,
Right.
May of 22, and May of 23, or September of 22. So there'd be 4 contributions to it since that was done in one
Yeah,
balance taken out.
then 0.5%.
We should be okay.
I think we're okay.
Dave, is that 3-yard electric, Sandy? Oh, 2-yard? I'll go buy one of those.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes and you are authorized to make the purchase.
Thank you.
And Joe, do you want to continue with the highway report as long as you're on here?
I think that was the highlight of it. We discussed a little bit on budget planning and some ideas there. I didn't get a chance to read the minutes, but I was there. So, but the biggest thing we spent most of it on was that. And then Dave updated me on the culvert work on East Pittsford Road, which will be done next week. If you drive that road, it's going to be some traffic issues, 3-4 days, replacing 2 culverts. And we just talked briefly about his plans going forward for the highway department. But other than that, I think we've covered most everything. And I will mention that there are the idea of buying a tank for the town and doing the diesel on-road fuel that way could save us some money. I think we just need to look into the any of the things that we may have to do to put a tank out there. I know there is a tank, I believe, at the school for the buses, so we should be able to do something very similar, and we could save some money on that. That's probably an idea that's long overdue.
Yep. And
the other thing, Don, you can also get.
Are you going to come in with a recommendation, like maybe for next meeting for that, with that? Or is that just going to be part of the budget process?
It'll be part of the budget process. Yeah, it'll be part of the budget process that we take a look at. I haven't sat down with Dave yet. As soon as he gets the culvert work done, him and I are going to try to meet on the committee before our next meeting and just see what we've got for numbers and where that comes out. And then we'll get it, there's some changes that we're looking at that will drive whether we, it's kind of like if plan A works, then we'll need to do one thing. And if plan A fails, then we may not need to do anything, but we'll have more information after I look at his numbers and for our next meeting.
Okay.
what we'd be thinking.
Any questions of either Joe or Dave, the highway department?
Could you look into maybe some different signage on the corner of East Pitts Road by the soccer fields? I have some complaints coming from the soccer club. They're concerned about a car getting out into the field and maybe hitting somebody. And I know if maybe a couple more arrows or something could be done there to.
Yeah, I can look at it. I don't know.
I know you can't fix bad drivers, but
No.
something.
That's been a
The
pretty
Courier's
regular,
Curve
Yeah.
has been,
Because it's been there's been what, 3 in a month, I think. lately.
something like that, yeah.
What's happening, Kurt?
They're coming down out of Chittenden per se and making that corner there.
Courier's
Sort of
Curve,
making
Mercurius Curve.
which has been a headache
as
for.
the old folk know it. Yep, and they missed the
Did he say
corner.
the old folks knew it?
Apparently he did.
He did, Mary, didn't he?
Yeah.
Most people don't even know Mercurius owned that.
This old folk do.
How old we are.
I know.
But they don't make the corner and they head off. I had one last week.
So then they're playing soccer, you know?
Yeah, they took out, I don't know, 12 of my.
Well, I like
my
them when they
little
go
posts that-
walking,
I got telephone poles for posts every 6 feet. They took out like 12 of them.
they cross the river and come walking up through my property.
Yeah.
Steve said, who's that woman in one of our cameras? Who's that
What's
woman?
that? You
What's
got
that?
those
Oh.
signs with the big,
Yeah, the
the big
Chevron
arrows, the
arrows.
big-
Chevrons,
yeah,
yeah.
chevrons going
I don't know
boom,
if I
boom,
can-
boom, boom.
If an advisory speed limit, under the corner sign.
Line the
No.
corner.
Yeah, like they,
There's a real
Byron
simple
put
cure to that.
that big sign up on the post road, and if you don't see it, you're blind.
There you
But
go.
Mayor,
Mike,
Sharon, there's
Yeah.
a real simple cure to that. If you drive 35 miles an hour, you probably can negotiate that turn. It's probably better
Are
to
you
go slower.
suggesting that I don't drive 35
No,
miles
no,
an hour,
you're-
Joseph?
No, what I'm
this sounds
suggesting,
like a
all these
personal
things that
problem
you're
being
saying
here
to change,
at a select board
It's-
meeting.
I
it's all
know,
the
I know,
things that
Joey.
everybody's talking about changing. The number one reason, and everybody on the board and our PD and everybody in the world will tell you, if you drive that speed limit, all those people coming out of Chittenden that are an hour late for work or whatever it is, need to slow down. It's speed, and it's only speed, that you can't navigate that corner. That
There you go.
Dave could put signs up there till the cows come home. And if you're driving 50 miles an hour down that road, you're going to have a hard time staying on pavement. You're going to be out there clipping fence posts and playing soccer with the kids.
Well, maybe they should have a chevron for a grill, so.
Yeah.
Put some up.
Mike,
Mike,
it's,
But
My only concern is I go up there a lot and there are kids use that, all the time.
Yeah.
So what do we tell them if, God forbid, they're playing and somebody drills through that?
I know.
So, I mean.
You're right.
There are options. I mean, can you
Yep.
put a guardrail? Can you do some concrete? I don't know, but God forbid it's happened when nobody's been.
with our kids, yeah.
We're loaded with 200 people up there.
Yep.
and Somebody does that. How are we gonna look?
Yeah, I know,
If we
you're
didn't-
right.
If we just like, oh, slow down, I get that. But how are we gonna look if we really don't do anything? Now, I know it's private land, I understand that. I don't know what the process is of putting some kind of barrier. But I think it's in our best interest as a town, knowing that this is notorious. What are we going to do about it for the greater?
I don't see, I think Byron owns that, most of that, and
I own
I
that.
don't see Byron having any complaints if you put a guardrail there.
Sharon, I own it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, you troublemaker.
well, it isn't private
Well,
land
so-
where we would put
so-
guardrail. We put guardrail on
In
the
town right away.
town road right away.
Yeah, it'd be in town right away. I just don't know what the federal handbook says about. putting a
Yeah,
guardrail
you'd
there.
have to
you
check and see
can't,
whether.
you have to be
Right.
careful of that. We ran into that up on Post Road when we were requested to put a guardrail in, and they tell you that the guardrails are supposedly put in for linear collision, not perpendicular collisions. So, but it would be,
Oh, just
you
put-
could look in, but I think, Kurt, everything that you have tried there, they have been able to wipe out. Okay?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We just put over.
You know, what my answer, my
200
husband's
feet.
answer is, put boulders up.
Well, That
We just put
You can't.
over,
might be a
Becomes a
step,
liability.
We-
Well,
huh?
how many
Can't
feet?
put boulders,
I
you
know,
can't build a
but they've
wall.
been out in my field and that's a straightaway.
Mhm.
How many
Right.
feet of
Yeah.
guardrail did we just put up on Town Line Road? Those are linear.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
the
mean,
answer,
you-
but,
Nobody's,
but you know what? When he says that about kids, that really scares me.
Yeah, and there's a lot
Yeah,
of
you
people
did.
that are very concerned about it, and they have.
There's a difference in going through the post road intersection into a cow field than plowing through a field full of kids.
I agree with you, Mike.
Yeah, but in reality.
Right, but there are
That could be-
rules.
Yeah.
There are rules governing what you can put in the right of way for the safe conduct of the motoring public. So what Kurt said is that we need to look into the state's rules and regulations that govern putting guardrails up. That curve may be okay because that isn't a perpendicular intersection. It is a sweeping curve. So we may be well within the rules to be able to put a guardrail up there. Just don't always anticipate. I mean, it'll make the town look better that we tried, but it may not stop a car. But that would be the first thing, is to look and see what's allowed on that corner as far as guardrails.
we can do that.
Yep.
Check it out.
Put in a truck trap.
Yeah.
Any more discussion or questions for the road commissioner?
So,
Hearing none. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And our next report will be from Kari Clark, our town clerk and treasurer. Good evening, Kari.
Hi, Don. Let's see, I don't really have too much to talk about tonight. Let's see, the elections are, well, let's go to the ballots, I guess. So I've been receiving absentee ballots by mail and in person and in our drop box. So that's working well. People continue to do that. So I encourage people to use those options. This is just another announcement, I guess. Some folks aren't quite aware of the reason why they received their ballots still. So it's just a reminder that the state sent them out to every active voter. Some people are questioning what they do with them because they may not want them. And that's at their discretion. They can come to the polling places and vote on them on election day, or if they don't want to vote at all, they can disregard their ballot. Some people are coming into my office and saying, I don't want this one, I want to vote in person. And again, that's their preference, but it is the same ballot in that absentee ballot envelope that was sent to your house as what will be given to you on election day. So there's nothing wrong with the one that you have received, and you can vote in person on it if you wish. Again, that's your discretion. I can't stop a voter from doing what they want to do. But it just makes sense to me. If you're given one, use it. You don't have to come and get a different one at my place. It's the same one. Let's see. That's pretty much.
Kari, have you, Kari,
ahead.
just, excuse me for interrupting, but have you got any information from the state as to what the status of those people who did not receive a ballot? Did you
So
get any
I
information from them?
I spoke with a contact in the elections division last week, going forward last week with all of the questions that we were receiving. This nice gentleman told me that if you are a registered voter and you perhaps did not get your ballot mailed to your house, you were to at least wait until October 10th, which we are now past that. And then just contact your town clerk and let them know that you did not receive your ballot. We can certainly look up to see if something was fishy on our end as far as addresses. I know I've had people call me and say, well, I didn't get mine. And when we went to look their name up, they had put an address maybe in a different state because last election they were gone on vacation. And that's why they didn't receive it at their house. They never changed it back. So there
Right.
could be a reason or there could not be a reason. I did get a visit from the postmaster last week, Jim Ragosta, and he was letting us know kind of the status on his end. Of course, he's had to deal with a lot of stuff as well during this election, and it's just begun. So he's trying to let town clerks know that there's a lot of mail coming back to us, returned back to us. And basically, there's a reason behind that. However, it's a little complicated to explain. Just know that if you didn't get your ballot, just contact us and we can either look to see if it was in that pile that came back to us or if there was a reason why you didn't get it in the first place.
Right. I guess the reason I'm asking is that when you have a situation where a husband and a wife obviously have lived in the town for 40, 50 years, and one gets a ballot, but the other one doesn't, and the 10th has passed and they still haven't got it, and I have two questions. Was it sent? And if it was, where is the ballot? Because then there's no ballot security.
Well,
And it happens to be a personal problem with me because my wife didn't get one. And I mean, she's certainly had the same address that she's had for a lot of years.
right.
70.
So just like with everything else, the state can only give us certain answers and I can only relay those answers. So they've only told me just have people contact you. As far as voter security, on our end, there is absolutely no way a voter in our town, as any voter in any town in Vermont using this system that the state has given us, they cannot vote twice. There is absolutely no way that you can do that unless someone is just on the other end of receiving the ballot, not paying attention. And in my case,
Okay.
there's none of that. So just to have, I've spoken with Marcia, she'll just have to talk to us, and anybody that calls in, they'll be told that they need to sign an affidavit because basically it's just saying you were supposed to be sent out one is out there somewhere, but you are only going to vote on this one. And you voted, you will get another one and you can vote once.
You're certainly making it an easy job for the town clerks, aren't they, Kari?
As always.
Yes.
So
Go ahead.
basically,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, that's fine. That's really all I had. There's just kind of the common stuff going on in the office, and we continue to move forward.
Okay.
Can I ask a question of Kari?
Well,
please?
sure. It's board questions right now.
Kari, have you had interest in the part-time position in your office?
Yes, we've had lots of interest. We did go through some interviews. The job was offered and at the same time declined. So we will continue to move forward in our search.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions of our town clerk treasurer? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Kari. Have a nice evening.
You too.
And moving forward, Mike Rowe, our Recreation Commissioner. Our Director, I'm sorry.
Whatever you want to call me. The Halloween party is the 28th for our town residents. That's Friday night from 5 to 6:30 at the school. The 8th graders are currently working on tricking out the trail. That is our plan. if the weather holds, we will also be having a special musical guest and somebody appearing with them. It's kind of weather related, but it will be really cool that we will have live music being played out back. If we have to move inside, we'll make those adjustments, but hopefully we'll have good weather with some live music, which will be pretty cool. We're kind of down to our last couple weeks of mowing. You know, if it doesn't grow, I don't mow kind of deal. And it seems to be saying I don't want to grow anymore.
We get you a hat with that set on it.
Uh-huh.
And we get you a hat with that written.
Exactly. You know, why don't you mow? Oh, don't grow it. Still waiting. We thought we had the zero turn coming in, but it was the wrong one. So we're still waiting, which is fine. It's like anything back ordered forever. We're okay with that. Other than that, we're just kind of getting ready for our winterization. We've had there's a big meet that was there today, cross country, and there's a big one on the 21st, which is next Friday. They're having the Southern Vermont League cross country meet through the park. So we'll make up signage, and it's pretty cool. It's a great event. And then on that Sunday, the Humane Society is coming in for a doggy thingy. They did it last year. It was pretty cool. It was cold, but so they're going to be using walking the trails with the dogs, and they do this big fundraiser for the Humane Society. So
Nice.
they're coming in on the 22nd for a second time around. They did it last year, so that was big. So hopefully it'll be even bigger for them. And then after that, the first is when we don't lock the gate anymore. Correct, Ed?
Right.
Just so you know, Dave, we don't lock the main gate after the first. And Bill's been doing a good job on the internet and fiber. That seems to be going along smoothly. And other than that, I don't have too much. Soccer is doing well. If you want to get out, if you're bored on a Saturday or Sunday, check the schedule. It's online. You can go watch the little kids play, whether they're playing soccer or flag football. And before you know it, winter will be here. Like be here. And
Like, if you don't have enough volunteers for the Halloween party, call me.
we're very fortunate in this town, as I said many times. We
Yeah,
have
you have the,
tons of people that
good,
volunteer, and
good.
the 8th grade is actually running the events.
Good.
They're planning them and running them.
Yep.
The candy is bought. I've been on notice that only a few of you want some left over. That's fine. We won't bring it to everybody. Then I'll probably get yelled at because I didn't bring it
Kurt
to
and
them.
I are very grateful. So is
I know.
Mary. If somebody else
Fine.
has it,
If the mic is picking this up, but there's
My-
crackling of candy
my
wrap.
drawer-
Or
My
something.
drawer's almost overflowing over here. I'm all set.
Well, you got to
Yeah.
throw right next to you.
Nobody
You can
hears
try
it
to add
better than
stuff.
me. There's 2 hearing aids in here and her throwing candy at me.
So other than that, no, things are
remind me, I have to stock her up.
things are going smoothly. Remember, I will be probably remote from my last meeting in person will be the 8th of November, and then I will be remote until probably mid-January. But I'm sure
It's
you're
gonna take
fine
you
looking
that
at me
long
on
to
the screen.
rehab?
I'm
Yep.
gonna take as long as it needs to rehab. Wim.
Good luck with all that.
By the way, that nice little old lady, that's Mike's grandmother. She's a wonderful lady. And she does
cute?
make you look tall. Yes, she does.
She is so cute.
She's adorable. I can't believe she's working that much.
Looking on this
You know who
big,
she is? She works
yeah,
at the sandwich
I think
shop.
this kitty litter box or something, and I said, I'll get that. And this big heavy guy's checking her out. And I said, listen, when you get done checking her out, you put that box in there for her. And he said, yeah, I will. So then he plunks it down in the bottom of the darn thing. I was going to follow her to the car, but I didn't want her to think.
I find it interesting that you both live in the same town and you didn't know each other. After all these years. That what blows my mind, that
Well,
you
that-
didn't know this woman and you've lived here almost your entire life, and so has she, and that you didn't know of her.
I know she ran the sandwich shop.
Well,
I didn't know it at the
That's the
time.
thing. I know you old gut people just kind of know that kind of
It
thing.
might, it might come as a surprise to you, but the gentleman sitting right next to where you're sitting, that was on the that is on the library board, who is representing this town on the library board. I've never met the man in my life. I didn't know who he was. I
Well,
didn't
in
know
his
name.
defense, he's only lived in the town for about 2 years, 3 years.
Well, still.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
we're talking 70, 90. I mean, you know, however young you are, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
56 and 90. Other than that, I don't have anything unless you
Okay.
have
You trip.
Gonna have you petrified before long.
That was.
What are you talking about? You're a relic. If I
But
need
you
you,
are-
you're a relic.
You are all more than welcome to come out to the Halloween party. I've already talked with Angie.
Stay away. Don't try to be nice now.
Have you folks ever seen a meeting degenerate so quickly?
So you're more than welcome. I would really encourage you to come out and
Are you going to be dressed
hang
in
out.
costume?
No. I'm in a costume
I
every
was
day.
on the recreation committee that started the Halloween party.
That's awesome. And I'm continuing it. And thank you for starting
You're
it.
welcome.
Were you ever outside?
Absolutely.
I'm just
Did you
checking.
go in costume?
Then they had me under desk grabbing kids' legs. I thought it was a little different.
Yeah, that is a little different. Well, I did already talk with Angie, Officer Angie, so she will be on at the front.
She's a good gal.
Just to keep things smooth, but I would encourage you all to please come up and attend. It's a
Any
great time.
questions of Mike?
No. All right. Good.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mike.
You kicked me out quick. All
Hey,
right.
good luck on your surgery.
Thank you. You'll see me 2 more times before that.
Oh, God, please.
Our next report will be from Dana Peterson, filling in for Barbara Noyes Pulling.
Barbara is online, so
Oh.
I'll come up if there's anything that she does.
Okay, oh, hi, Barb.
Hey, hi. Everybody's having fun tonight, huh?
Oh, yes, we are.
So,
It's good to see, it's good to see that you are not in costume yet either.
right, although the lighting's a little bit weird here, but not in costume, right? So a few meetings ago, we started talking about river corridors and how the town could get a bigger piece of the pie when there are disasters declared. I sent out some maps that show you where the floodway is, where the special flood hazard area is, and where these river corridors would be. And if Kyle is still there in the room.
Yes, I was just inviting him up to table.
Okay, great. There are some other things we can talk about too. There's some new FEMA maps coming out later this year or next year. And DEC, who Kyle works for, has come up with a brand new flood hazard ordinance that can be a standalone ordinance. So it's ideal for towns without zoning. And so I'll just pass it over to Kyle to carry on from there.
Yep.
Thank you, Kyle.
So, yeah, I guess, so we're looking at the current flood hazard regulations for Rutland Town were updated at the last map update in 2008. So we're getting towards, in 2015, the idea of river corridors and river corridor regulation and the Emergency Relief Assistance Fund came out. So, and we're expecting new maps probably like 2026, 2028. So basically the DEC is in a push to talk to towns, kind of get them up to speed with what's going on with current regulations. And really the big benefit for Rutland Town would right now, so in a federally declared disaster, FEMA pays 75%. The town, state, whoever is responsible for the other 25. Right now, you guys are at an even split. So that 25%, you guys take 12.5, we take 12.5. What the river corridor adoption would do would up that to 17.5%. So it'd be like 7.5% the town would be responsible for at that point. And the other benefit would be that if you do kind of look more towards the DEC model that we have, and we have a new standalone model that came out in 2022, as Barbara said, and that kind of encompasses some higher flood standards and the river corridors. And that's already been vetted by FEMA. That would be eligible for the ERAF credit. It would be up to standard for when the new maps come out. And yeah, the other thing that does is with a little bit higher standards, it would also make you more competitive if there was, you guys wanted to pursue FEMA grants or things like that for culvert replacements or anything to really make the town more resilient in terms of FEMA funding for projects like that. And I guess the big areas of river corridor you're looking at are kind of in the north end of town along the East Creek, Tenny Brook, kind of center of town, and then the Otter Creek, Moonbrook, kind of the upper reaches of that, and then the Otter Creek in the southern portion of town.
I have a question. I had a couple farmers call me concerned about East Creek and what limitation that would put on the farms up at that end.
So farming, I guess for river corridor regulation, we're not really talking too much about agriculture. We're talking about like new structures, new utility corridors, new residential kind of things, more along that permanent infrastructure line. Basically, the idea of river corridor regulation is that we're not putting things further toward the riverbank than we already have them, so that you don't have an increased need to do channel management. So to riprap the banks, that expensive work that kind of comes in after a flood, like, oh, the river has now moved over by the back of my house or by the back of the shopping mall or whatever it is, and we're now going to protect that. So what we're doing with the river corridor regulation is kind of getting out ahead of that, keeping things out of that space. And, in doing that, after a flood, you have less things to clean up. There's less strain on your emergency services. There's, you're just kind of giving the river the room what it needs to do. In turn, you're, creating maybe recreational opportunities, wildlife habitat, wildlife travel corridors, all the things that kind of that space around the river provides.
Kyle,
And-
would you just go over, summarize again the funding shifts and changes? In other words, the percentage.
Yep. So right now,
Presently we have, and
Yep.
what we get if we do this.
exactly. So right now, if there's a federally declared disaster, FEMA comes in and pays 75% of your bill. And the Emergency Relief Assistance Fund with the state seeks to take care of that other 25%. And right now, that split on the 25% is half and half. So the town of Rutland has 12.5%, the state would pay 12.5%. By adopting these river corridors, you bump up another 5%. So the town would be 7.5%, the state would be 17.5%. So, and basically any federally declared disaster, any kind of bills you come up with for the disaster cleanup, any kind of rebuilding, you would technically only be responsible for 7.5% at the town level.
Yeah, at the
So-
town level.
So
This
we
is
gain
not,
5.
this wouldn't be
Go
for
ahead, Barbara.
individual assistance. Yeah. this
Yeah,
is-
no, it's not for individuals. It's only for like town.
Municipalities.
Yep, exactly.
So
Fixing roads and
the boost is
bridges.
5%.
The boost is 5%. Yep.
Now, if you look at the maps carefully, and we can do this at a later time, or you can have the town planning commission do this. The river corridors include a little bit more than the main streams in the main rivers. They
Yeah.
include
In some areas. Yeah, so I guess we could go back to that methodology too, is one of the big things where flood hazard areas, they're based on an elevation, right? So your river level's here, your flood level is theoretically up here. And it kind of ends there at inundation flooding at a certain elevation. What the river corridor tries to recognize is erosion hazards. So like think Route 4 after Irene, the road is, 20, 30 feet above the river. So likely not mapped in a flood hazard area, though it got taken out by a flood because the bank was undermined. So they're unique to Vermont in that we have a lot of elevation change and a lot of erosion hazard landslide type things. So it recognizes those erosion hazards where, you know, you might be in a house that you could see the river down here, but hey, I'm 100 feet up above. But sure enough, the river comes in, undermines the bank slides, and then next thing you know, your house is ready to fall in. So it kind of recognizes those erosion hazards versus the flood hazard areas where they recognize the inundation-based flooding.
We have 3 questions.
Mhm.
The first is, you've looked at our present floodplain zoning and it would not qualify us for this 5% bump up, right?
So your flood hazard zoning right now is only for FEMA map flood hazard areas.
Yeah,
And is basically at the minimum necessary to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program.
Yeah.
That extra 5% bump recognizes the river corridors and regulating those, which
Okay.
are a state thing, which is
Yeah.
why it's tied to the state funding.
gotcha.
So the river corridor is independent of FEMA or kind of any federal things.
Okay, well, except that we bump up if we need federal money because we're taking more of the state share.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So second question, it seems to me we did an emergency management plan that allowed us also a bump up.
Yeah, so that is so like base level for ERAF, and when I say ERAF, it's the Emergency Relief Assistance Fund, that's for the state.
Mhm.
Base level is 7.5%. So by you having a local hazard mitigation plan,
Yeah.
the town road and bridge standards. And I think that's it. That's what got you up to the 12.5. So
Gotcha.
now this is like the next step
Okay.
to 17.5%.
And last question, if the federal disaster that hits the town is completely unrelated to floodplain, say it's a wildfire, does FEMA still, I mean, the work that we do on this river corridor management planning still bumps us up 5%, regardless of what kind of disaster it is?
I'm not sure about that one because it's so focused on flooding.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it would bump you up for other FEMA things or what the Emergency Relief Assistance Fund would cover in that.
gotcha. Okay,
That's something I could check in, and that's a very good question.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we get a 5% boost if we adopt this.
Yep.
This is the model.
Yep.
What does this require us to do that we're not now presently required to do?
So what it would add in is the river corridor piece, which we've been talking about. So it's kind of another layer of regulation than the flood hazard area, oftentimes overlapping, maybe different in some pockets of here and there. And then that has a little bit higher flood standards in it. So right now, if you were to build a new building in the floodplain, the lowest floor would have to be elevated to the base flood elevation. That adds 2 feet of freeboard. So if the flood water were to come in, it adds 2 feet of extra protection, kind of recognizes, we're starting to see these bigger rain events and kind of higher base flood elevations than what were mapped, because here we have a map from, I think, 2008, but the data is actually from the 80s.
Yeah.
So we're really starting to move into like 40, 50 years, like the FEMA maps may not be the most accurate anymore. So what a lot of that does is try to get ahead of it and say, okay, we know the FEMA mapping is sort of inadequate to prevent flood hazards. By using these updated standards, we should be better protected.
And Kyle,
I understand the whole concept of protection. I guess what I'm getting at in terms of trying to make or preparing to make a decision on this is how much it impacts on the landowners who are abutting the streams that we're talking about in the floodplain areas. And I think we have a responsibility to tell them what the increased rules are going to require of them to get their buy-in or their input on this, since it's their land that's abutting these streams. I feel an obligation to the taxpayer landowners involved with this. And,
Yeah.
and it is, obviously, it's a balance between property rights and protection that we're talking about.
Yep.
So, and I'm
Absolutely.
aware of that. I just think for transparency that they need to know that.
Yep, and yeah, I think that towns go through this, it's an extra set of regulations that, we're theoretically getting money for another area where we might be giving it up in some other aspect. And I think, maybe it's not right for every town, but I think that's a great idea to get the landowners involved. Maybe, you could have maybe the planning commission pull the addresses and send something out to them and say, hey, this is what we're considering, this is why. And what do you think, and have them get involved in these meetings and kind of see how that goes.
And if I could add something, if
go
I
ahead,
could
Barb.
add something, the map, I believe that was given to you, and there's a large version that Bill should have, does indicate every structure, every E911 structure in town. So that's the beginning of getting some of that information out to people, to townspeople. They can see where they are vis-a-vis the floodway or the river corridors. And it's a start.
So what this is essentially doing is we're gonna make our taxpayers that are in these hazard zones jump through more hoops. So we could maybe get a little bit more of a portion if a bridge gets washed out in our town, because it's only supporting town right of ways and structures, correct?
Well,
Somebody's house washes away in the flood.
they would need to have flood insurance.
Yeah, so this isn't gonna help them at all. So it's only protecting town roads and
Yeah, I mean,
and bridges essentially.
in a larger sense, it's protecting the river corridor, it's protecting things from washing down, getting stuck under a bridge. It's decreasing strain on emergency services by not having to respond to calls at that time. It's helping the road crews by not having to clean these things up. It's, helping out the habitat and animals, plants, all those kind of things that are in your town that a lot of people kind of like the rivers, they like going to walk by them. They like going fishing. They like going hunting. They like, all those things that kind of the river provides. So I think it's beneficial to look at it in a bigger sense of what's good for the town environmentally, fiscally. Just keeping things out of harm's way is what's going to really help you in the long run here.
I just want to say something because I live on East Creek. I own my farm is on East Creek. My house is on East Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So is your property.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk from Route 7 up past his farm, up past Ronnie McCurrier's, all the way up through. We all take better care of the river than the state of Vermont ever thought of. They're very proud people in our town. They're very proud farmers. They're very protective of the land. We've kept it open so that people can walk our land.
Yeah.
And I, for one, don't want any more rules that say I can't. Because we have my husband has put up benches for people to sit, to walk there. We allow people who are respectful to fish there. I know your family does, am I correct?
Yeah.
And I got several calls from farmers and asked me, you're not going to let them take more of our rights away.
Yeah,
So-
and I mean, to your point, that's all great. And I don't think we should look at it as taking away recreation or agriculture or kind of these more open space uses. It's kind of more like so someone can't put a house there and put themselves in danger, or a subdivision, or things that have real public safety impacts.
I don't think any one of us would allow a house on our farm up close to the river. We know better than that. We've lived that land.
Yeah,
We've watched the flooding.
yeah. So I mean, and that's
So I guess as long as you have responsible people around the river, I don't think we need to dictate them. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of also separates out, like I said, it's not really regulating agricultural land or open space uses, and it recognizes that areas in downtowns are redevelopable, and there is standards for that.
We're very protective where I am. We have
Yeah.
Indian artifacts all through there.
Mhm.
We protected the land pretty darn good. So
Yeah,
I, for one,
yeah, yeah, so I guess it's just.
I think the point is what we have now for flood hazard regulations already in town is out of date, and it's going to be more out of date. I mean, you mentioned the 1980 revisions of the FEMA maps. The first revisions were in, I think, the 70s.
Yeah, the National Flood Insurance
Yeah.
Program came about in the 70s.
So we're just catching up. This is old stuff. We know from climate change that the flooding has increased, and these new regulations reflect what's really going on and would protect areas that are more prone to flooding. So I, for one, think we ought to be taking a look at an upgrade. I would assume that these river corridor regulations would replace the existing flood hazard area regulations. Is that how it would
No,
work?
so it's split. Your flood hazard
Okay.
regulations are still your flood hazard regulations, and that's like a FEMA thing. That's
Okay,
for the National Flood Insurance Program, and participating in the National Flood Insurance Program is what makes federally subsidized flood insurance available to anyone in the community, whether they live in the flood hazard area or not.
right.
And yeah, that's kind of that piece of it, whereas the river corridor is the state piece of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kyle,
Barbara, are you in favor of, and could you facilitate the suggestion that Kyle made that we involve the landowners that abut these streams that we're talking about at a meeting at some point where we answer their questions and explain how the new regulations or the additional regulations are going to impact them specifically?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. The planning commission would be glad to do that, and we could start that process, or we could set it up and make it a joint process with the select board. Sure. Yeah, we could start it by identifying the property owners, not just by, dots on the map where structures are, but who those people are and their mailing addresses and all that. And Kyle, if I could follow up on Mary's last question, your standalone would cover everything that would be needed, right? Would cover.
Yeah, that has both things in
Okay,
it, but
all right.
yeah,
All right.
that has the river corridor and the flood hazard regulations all in it, what I
Gotcha.
have there.
So,
But I'm just trying to make that break of like, you already have flood insurance regulations, which is in there, but this also adds the river corridor.
okay, gotcha.
I would like to see how much, after Hurricane Irene, how much FEMA funding we got for fixing roads, to see monetarily wise, how much we've taken in,
good point.
so we could see whether this is a benefit or not.
Yeah, Irene would be a pretty good measure, I would
Yeah,
say.
that's a good, the only reason why it's gonna be worse now is because the state's not managing the stream. And
Because the what? I
the
didn't hear.
state's not managing the stream, and East Creek is over full. So it's the only thing that would make a flood worse now. So-
What are you getting at there that we're not managing, the state isn't managing? East Creek?
The stream bed's full. The water's split, there's berm in the middle, and
Okay, it's filled with sediment.
it's filled with sediment and needs to be
Yeah.
dredged. That's
Yeah,
something
so.
that's been trying to get worked on for a while.
Yeah, so just like a quick note on that is like, when you do remove a lot of the material from the stream, you increase like down cutting, increase, different erosion points. Whereas this recognizes, oh, that's dammed up over there, the river's gonna run its course and find its what they call dynamic equilibrium. So the sediment in, sediment out, like it doesn't accumulate like that. And by giving it the room, you eliminate the need to dredge it.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
are some
my
places that do
initial
need to be
concern
maintained.
right off the bat, when I looked at Otter Creek, which has quite a traverse through the town of Rutland,
Mhm,
and it has quite a few bends in it,
mhm.
in terms of that dynamic stabilization, as to whether there was gonna be requirements in here to stabilize some of that, because that's natural erosion. I mean, that's a built-in natural erosion thing on high water levels
Yeah.
where the bends are. They tend to go around them and create islands and
Yeah, it might, jump from one bend to the next bend, a
That's right.
straight path or something like that. And the advantage to the Otter Creek, at least in a regulation sense, is that a lot of it is surrounded by wetlands anyway. So you have to go to the Vermont state wetland rules to do anything there anyway. So presumably around the Otter Creek, you already have other limitations that the river corridor doesn't really add much.
well, I'm wondering, for instance, if there is the potential to be, from these regulations, to be a prohibition on some of the plans that our planning commission has been working on for river access up at the Gookin Falls, and with a boat launch, a little canoe, not a
Yeah.
big boat launch, but a canoe launch, and
Yeah, those are all things like public water access is like an exemption in there. So if you take a good look at them, like things like that, public water, like I said, we're really getting at like habitable structures, like business structures, like really things that, are a risk to the public, can really be damaged in flooding, recreation opportunities, smaller things like that are allowable in these areas.
okay,
Yeah.
because they put a lot of time in it already, so
Yeah.
I hate to see it go by the wayside because of a prohibition in here on it.
But if I'm understanding, may I
Yep.
chime in?
Yep.
I'm Dana Peterson. I'm the vice chair of the planning commission, and it seems like those types of facilities that we're talking about, that the planning commission is working in partnership with other towns and with Green Mountain Power and so forth to set up, would be reimbursable to reestablish if we adopted these regulations, and that we would have fewer costs to pay to be able to reinstate those access points if they were taken out or destroyed, disrupted as a result of some flood. Is that correct, or am I missing the point?
No, you might be able to get, I don't know if you'd be able to get funding to redo it, and you would be able to redo it. It would just be where the river ended up.
Right.
You're kind of a guest of the river at that point.
Exactly. But we would be able to reestablish that and perhaps have some funding to be able to
Yeah, because it was destroyed.
destroy,
So, yeah,
right,
exactly.
applying through FEMA. And
Mhm.
that might cost the town less to be able to do that because that's a public access. I don't know. I'm just speculating. So to your point, Don, the planning commission doesn't want to do more work than it needs to on an exercise in futility. But one of the things that we have been doing is reviewing our regulations with respect to the subdivision ordinance. And to the same point, that subdivision ordinance goes back to 1981. And we're finding that there are discrepancies and inconsistencies as a result of newer updated ordinances, including stormwater and MS4. And so I think that, to Barbara's point, the planning commission takes on an educational role to let people in the town know what are safety concerns that are being brought to our attention. And so that public approach to informing folks about what is now being considered a danger because of climate change, as Mary has mentioned, that could result in danger to them as individual property owners, but also to the town, is something that I think the planning commission takes pretty seriously and would embrace that. And we've already done concerted mailings, if I'm not mistaken, Bill and Barbara, on other things in terms of flood hazard mitigation and the Mussey Brook and Moon Brook.
Somewhat ordinance.
Stormwater ordinance.
We
So,
did.
so this is a natural
task for the select board to provide to the planning commission, and we would debate that and identify what's the information that would need to get out and what are the questions that people have about it, so that it wouldn't appear as if somebody is trying to unnecessarily regulate individual property owners' decisions about what they can and can't do on their own property. I don't think that's not what this is about.
No, I mean, you'll see in there what is permittable, like there's an accessory structure, 500 square feet or less. There's, several things you can still do there, recognizing they are minor activities. And another thing that I think this standalone ordinance does, for Bill, is that it includes a lot of exemptions and includes more clarity than the 2008 model, where, certain things like agriculture is in there as exempt. There's I don't have it in front of me, but there's a little more clarity into what's a conditional use, what's an administrative permit, what's exempt. And in my eyes, it may be a little easier to administer.
Okay, well, I have not memorized even one page of this document.
Oh, I look at it all the time and I have to always look back. So yeah.
So true.
I mean,
So is the question from the planning commission at this point, do you want some indication from the select board as to whether we think you should proceed with at least looking at this ordinance and hosting a landowners meeting?
Yeah, I would say that we're looking for a direction from the select board. If you want, on what you want us to pursue, and, timetable, anything like that.
Well, I would like to hear from each member of the select board on that very question, because, if you don't want to proceed, let's say so now. If you would like to proceed with the landowners, I would say that would be the next step. So, Joe, I'll start with you because you're remote.
I think it requires more information, and I like the idea of having a landowner get together and see what they need to know what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. And just one quick thing that I wanted to bring up about this is not, from what I understand from Kyle, this is not just about flooding. And that's something that we're all hung up on, is the flooding. The events that this river corridor thing, if I understand this right, is trying to prevent from happening, is just a high water event that doesn't require any flooding, but could erode banks or whatever that take away what people think is a safe distance from a house or a barn or a garage from the river. Quickly, if you remember when Irene struck, if you drove Route 100 from Killington over to Pittsfield and you were paying attention to what was going on, there was a house as you're headed into Pittsfield, be on the right side of the road. That house was probably more than 100 feet above the river that comes down through there. And during Irene, the bank washed out so that the portion of the house facing Route 100 there was no bank under it. The foundation was basically gone. Now that house would never flood, because if it flooded there, it probably would have been flooding in Rutland too. That's how high it was above that river. And that house was built within what I would say would be a prohibited area under these rules, because the erosion to the riverbank under that house was so severe that probably 20 or 30 or 40 feet of their backyard went in the river, and now the foundation was gone. And so I can see where there's benefits to this, and I think we should look into it and at least make a real effort to try to understand it. And I'm not in favor of regulations that don't need to be in place, but there are some things that are just plain practical. Thanks.
Okay, Kurt?
I don't know. I want to see numbers on what we've received from FEMA, from Irene, to see if this actually makes sense. I mean, it's proof's in the pudding, I guess. If this percentage change is gonna be, nominal for what we took in from FEMA during Irene, I'm not overly concerned with it. I know I don't like this town telling me what I cannot do on my land, and I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way.
Okay. Mary?
I think we should go ahead with it. To your point, I don't think it's just about the FEMA reimbursement. That's probably the carrot and stick approach the state's using. But frankly, given what's been going on with our environment, we've got out of date ordinance, and this would be a good way of updating it and bring us, at least educating people as to why there's a need for it. So I would certainly move along the track of looking at a new ordinance, but particularly educating landowners and seeing what their concerns are.
Sharon?
I'm with Kurt. I don't want people telling me what to do on my farm. I'm willing to listen, but I'm not willing to move on it now.
I'm a farm owner too.
I mean, there can be education
Me too.
without ordinance, and if somebody wants to build something in that zone and it gets washed away, that's their prerogative.
And they're lost.
Yeah.
But if it goes downstream and goes under a bridge and then that floods and then there's something else and you're thinking, gee, we could have avoided this if we didn't do that. That's all this is trying to do, is trying to prevent unnecessary damage to the town. And it's also, if I understood what was said, there is other benefits to this, and it makes us maybe looked at in a more favorable light for other grant possibilities when we're looking for state monies for upgrading infrastructure. There are some other benefits to this that are much bigger than just the dollars you get from FEMA. Because this is the state portion that we're talking about, not the FEMA portion. And
Okay, so, I can see that two things here. I can see that there's enough negative, and I don't want to be the negative that is the third vote that says, no, we're not even going to pursue any further. But if the planning commission is willing to do it, knowing the concerns that we have, or that a substantial majority of the board has, I'd like to hear from the landowners. I really think we owe them that transparency, and that the planning commission would then bring back to us a summary of what you do with that meeting, and I would, then we would take into consideration that summary in making a decision. I think we should at least do that.
For sure. Yeah.
If you're willing, Kurt.
Yep. Put it out to the public and see what they have to say about it.
Dana?
To your point, Don, the planning commission has no authority to adopt an ordinance.
Yeah.
We just have the directive from the select board to research and present you with facts and information.
Right.
If that includes soliciting input from the public, then that's what you'll get from us.
Okay.
So you'll get both what we think the old ordinance does and where it may fall short, what the benefits of a new ordinance might be, and and how that would benefit both the town as well as taxpayers. And then we could give you, if you choose to proceed further, some type of a draft that we think would meet the expectations for the enhanced funding. And you could make a decision on your own as the governing board of the town about whether you wanted to adopt that ordinance, or whether you wanted to change it, or whether you'd want to send it back to us for additional work. So this could be a multi-year project, like some of the things that we have undertaken.
It often is just like kind of look at it, see what you say, reconsider it.
Well,
kinda
I think
keep
the
going
first,
through
the
it,
first
yeah.
thing we have to do is deal with the one that we have in front of us right now. I mean, that's a standalone ordinance. And like I say, I'd like the landowners who are adjacent or have the streams in their in and abutting their property have an opportunity to be educated and ask questions and then react to what you have to tell them, and then so we can hear what that is. And as a summary. And I would not vote for this unless it had fairly majority landowner approval of those property owners.
Just as a caution on that, I went to the landowner meeting you had for the flood,
Yep.
was it flood mitigation?
Yes.
You had very few people there. So if you say, I want to see a majority people in favor of it, people aren't necessarily going to turn out that way. So just keep that in mind.
Well, if we give them a chance, then we
And we did on that one. That's what I'm saying.
say.
That's a good example.
Give them a chance, and if they don't show up, then obviously it's just like those voters that vote or not for the library. You
Or
only
any
get,
one of us
you-
as select board members.
only get to approve of something by voting for it. So staying home does not count as a vote, either way.
Okay.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you, Barb and Dana?
Yes, yeah, that I can envision maybe a multifaceted kind of approach to this. You know, one meeting might not do it. There might have to be more communications than we've used in the past. Might have to go to the people in some instances to get their opinions, but we welcome the challenge.
And
Okay.
Barbara, the last time when we did this, we sent out flyers and emails and posted things on the website. We got a number of calls that people thanked us for the work that we had done to educate them. So they may have felt comfortable enough not to have to attend a hearing. But I mean, you know, the question comes down to, you know, personal interest and priorities and how much time people want to give. But we were available for calls. Bill, I think you fielded a few calls last time. And people who are interested and know that it affects them will look into it and give their feedback that way.
And would you like this focused only on those who will be affected? Or do you want this town-wide?
No, I'm talking about those who would be affected.
Okay.
I think they have the most direct stake in this particular decision.
And we'll start there.
You know, notwithstanding Kyle's comment that, you know, we do these things for community benefit. I understand that, but
I think when we did the mitigation meeting, it was targeted at the owners who were affected.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, every town's different and this will benefit one town differently than the other. So we gotta look at how it would benefit us.
and I don't know whose responsibility it would be to get the FEMA information, but I do believe that that's an important point as to how much we've gotten from Irene.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that.
I think that would be highway records from
Yeah.
whatever the year, what, 10, 12, 10 or
11.
12, yeah, yeah,
2011.
yeah, so
Yeah,
just a
it,
quick,
it
well,
should
maybe
be
it
in
won't
the-
be quick, but it'll be in there,
Somewhere.
yeah. Ask Byron, he was the one who put our claims together, yeah.
Yeah, maybe in there, I'm sure there's a FEMA report that came out for Rutland County or something.
Ask
But
your
you can
uncle.
look into it.
Yeah, I'll run it by him.
Yeah.
See if he remembers.
There might be reports at the state level too, as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Does that conclude or?
Well, Barbara, did you want me to say anything about the subdivision ordinance and the work that we've done, or have we covered that enough?
We've probably covered that enough. Thank you, Kyle, for sticking through the meeting tonight. Yeah, we really
Yeah,
don't.
no problem. I mean, if you're having more meetings and the landowners are here or however we need to do this, I'm available to talk individually or to a group or just you can have my information and you know where to get a hold of me if you have any questions throughout.
Well, we appreciate your input and I appreciate your patience in being put off from the previous meeting to this one. We've had a tremendous amount of
Yeah.
litigation and other related matters that just have and
Yeah, like I said, this could take years and yeah, it's kind of, doesn't need to be done immediately, so.
no,
think
but
it
this was
yeah.
helpful and,
Mhm.
I think.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a good night.
Dana,
So
Thank
Don,
you.
before we conclude the planning commission report to the select board, I just want to recognize Bill Sweet for the extensive work that he's done on reformatting and recharacterizing the subdivision ordinance from for the select board. Is going to serve as a template for other town ordinances. And the work that he's done has really been exceptional, going out and looking at what other towns have done. And he brought that back to the planning commission, and several members gave feedback. We reviewed that at the last meeting, and we have on the docket several areas to examine in terms of whether those need to be revised, updated, or even in some cases removed, because other ordinances that we have adopted since both 1981 and 1999 have made certain components of that ordinance irrelevant. So we'll be taking that up as a full planning commission. There are about 8 to 10 areas that we'll be looking at, and we'll make that report available to you when we conclude that work. But that is going to be a multi-meeting endeavor, and it's going to take us probably till at least the first of the year, maybe a little longer, to have that in a form that you could.
This is the subdivision regulation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a couple of
and
thoughts on that.
I
should
would,
get to.
Yes, absolutely.
I would absolutely concur. I've spent plenty of time in Bill's office knowing exactly how exemplary that work is. And you're right. It can serve as a model. It definitely can serve as a model, which is appropriate for Rutland Town.
Thank you. And the planning commission was very pleased with what Bill had done. So I wanted to just acknowledge him publicly for that.
Well, in addition to your minutes, and he has a stick-to-itiveness that is very patient. So anyways.
We appreciate him. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Dana and Bill. Just one more quick update, if I could. There has been some progress on that new subdivision off at the very end of Holly Lane. Looks like there might be 5 homes in there. They're going through the state permitting process and making some progress there, and will probably come before the planning commission in the near future, looking for approval for that subdivision. That they're in the process of getting a water and wastewater and a wetlands permit. And they need a stormwater and erosion control permit as well. That's in the works. And when they first came to us, that was going to be a private road, from the end of Holly Lane to the homes. I think that's still the case, but it's been a few months since we last spoke with them.
Okay,
Just FYI.
good. Any questions of Barb? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Barb.
Okay,
And Dana.
thank you.
Okay. I don't think we need any more committee meeting updates. We've taken care of them through the schedule. And I guess we go to old business.
How about Bill?
Oh, how about Bill?
You know, the guy we just praised.
Well, I thought maybe he would he had taken up all of the, yeah, go ahead.
We could puddle in the middle of the room. He
What
could
the
walk
heck?
on water.
I don't know. I've got these little hash marks on it and I had one next to Bill's name. Yeah,
Talk about me enough like I'm here.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, I still have a few things to go over. So we had received a letter from North Star Fireworks. That's in your packet. It was letter B. They had sent us, we'll call it a warning letter about the upcoming season for fireworks and what we should plan. So that is more than we budgeted last year. But that's basically to maintain what we've been used to. And I sent along some letters of why it's happening and things. So that's more of an FYI for the budget planning process for that particular line.
Can I make a comment about that? Because I was looking at that and we've heard how we have to be incredibly conscious of extra spending.
You're gonna say what I was gonna say.
Why don't we see if we can go in with the city and
Exactly
do
what I
a
was-
fireworks joint display, which if they put it off at the fairgrounds, everybody can see it.
Yeah, and we contribute to it,
We
but
contribute.
not
to
at
it.
a 20% increase.
Well, I want a firework that shows Rutland town in the sky.
How about our, I don't know, color?
No, you know,
Not just red and white, how about blue and white?
this is true. We just,
Charter logo.
Yeah.
we just spent a lot of time
We-
talking about a 5% increase.
Yep.
Yep,
And here, this is a 20% increase.
yeah.
Yep.
That's too much. And I, as much as I like North Star and as much as I love the fireworks and the whole ambiance of doing it at the park and everything, this is getting to be too much.
It
And
is
it's-
too much.
There's just time to say enough. And the way to do that is a good compromise is to say to the city, hey, how about going in with us and we'll advertise it in both places? How about maybe we do it down at the fairgrounds one year and the next year we do it up at Northwood Park? And you share with us, we'll share with you, keep the cost down,
Or if there's another town out there that would wanna maybe,
maybe.
West,
In North-
Mendon, I think.
Mendon.
was.
it is really nice,
Yeah.
you know, in Northwood having the fireworks. I didn't know if maybe another town would.
I think it was either Mike Rowe or Chief Dumas who said most of the cars that were parking up there were out of staters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
coming down from Mendon.
But I didn't know.
Group.
I mean, we could approach Mendon. For instance, we could approach Mendon and say, look, we've got a bid in here and it's a little higher than we'd like. And we would not like to dump the fireworks because people do enjoy it, but 12.5 is much. How about sharing it at $6,250 a piece?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like maybe a town that doesn't have as nice of a facility that, might want to draw some people. It is really nice at Northwood.
It is, you're right.
There might be another town out there that maybe doesn't have a great place to set them off that might want to.
Where does Proctor's put them off?
I think Proctor does them at their fall festival thing they do, because they did them a couple weeks ago.
Well, we have a continuing relationship with Mendon, we.
So
rent
then why don't we
equipment with them.
try?
Yeah, if they do, I didn't even know Mendon did fireworks.
I mean, we haven't, we got a long while, so why don't we check in with Mendon, see
And
what,
really Northwood's a skip and a
Ideal.
jump from the Mendon line.
yep.
It's right there.
Well,
Well,
do you
we-
have a contact person up there or you just deal
Mendon?
with?
No,
No, but I bet Mike Rowe would.
Micro probably would.
Well-
But we typically sign the contract with North Star in January.
Yeah.
So when we do that, that gets us there are some benefits to doing it early. We do it, one of which is we typically have the right of first refusal for the actual July 4th date. So we opted for a different date this year and it worked out. The idea of going with another town is great. We have come at really close or exceeded capacity of parking in a couple of years past where we actually had to close and
They
turn
did.
people away
Last year
and
they did.
that got a little bit of
Yeah,
hate and
they did.
discontent, but there was literally no more room to park people. So
Right, they did.
so it's a great place to put people. It's a great place to go. If we invite multiple communities, we may not be able to actually pull that off.
I think we should investigate with the city. too.
Yeah, that may be a great.
Well,
alternative.
whatever we're gonna do, we better start doing it now.
Yep,
Do you want to start making the calls?
sure. See what I can find out.
And I would seriously consider Mendon. Because.
Yeah.
We share other things with them,
Yeah.
so they might want to do that.
Maybe they will.
And then maybe Proctor. Cause they're close and or West Rutland because we
What about
have shared
Pittsford?
agreements with them
They have a
too.
great big park too.
Yeah, Pittsford,
Although I'm with
Set
you.
them off from the top of Pine Hill, Proctor and Rutland Town.
There you are. Well, at my house, you
all
can
can see 'em
see
too?
Proctor, you can see Pittsford, you can see Rutland Town.
Okay, so we're
Rutland
gonna
City.
what's anybody to your house to?
No, Pete, no. Listen, they
You
drive
guys-
up my
you guys
driveway
can just-
apart.
They do.
You
I
can
think
just
maybe
use
if-
the upper meadow
yeah, as
where
long
we
as
have
it
it.
should be
You
guaranteed.
can just set them off there.
Hey,
You can see them in half of Rutland County.
DiNardo's Meadows, nothing better.
Only if we're guaranteed Joey juice will we use the top.
Yeah.
of the hill.
Kickapoo juice?
The thing about
We
going in
Southerners
with
have never
another
been
town,
invited.
North Star brought this they had mentioned it to me years ago that if we pooled our money like with the city, when you add that money, it actually is, you get more than double the fireworks. I mean, that's the way it used to be in the old days. So there is some benefits if you get a couple of towns to go together. I just think we should keep it somewhere, relatively close to town so that people don't have to. One of the nice things in Northwood is the proximity to the town. So, but the idea of sharing that has been brought up by North Star themselves, because we spend 10,000 and the city spends 10 or 15. And they said, if you put that kind of money together, they'd be there all night.
Or you don't have to spend as much and get just.
I like your idea.
Yeah.
Good Lord, they
do
go
too.
off, all night as it is up there.
Oh, Grover Drive does a show that
I know.
almost trumps the town.
I don't mind it. I really don't.
No.
Some
Well.
people do, but one night.
I've had just as good a time on the top of DiNardo Hill.
I will see what I can do. I'll see what I can find that
Okay,
does this.
let's move it along.
Have a
Okay.
a long time to do it, but we can figure it out. You want to keep going through the packet items or cover some of the new business items, or would
Let's
you like
do
to?
the pack.
Okay. So the next thing is for one of the new business items. So we have finished, with exception of one part of one building, all of the services for Consolidated have been changed over. We had a few road bumps, but we negotiated them and navigated them, and we're in good shape.
You had a great time doing it.
Sure. There were some bumps, there were some challenges, but we did a whole bunch of buildings, a whole bunch of things. Like we had some things we didn't anticipate, but I will say Consolidated has been very, very good about being responsive to fix some of the issues, and they were on them like within an hour. So we are all up and running. So the next part of that was being able to put in the infrastructure for wireless access points to use our internet service that we have at the buildings. So letter C in your packet are quotes and information related to that. So there were a couple companies that were part of the state bid process that I was able to get a hold of. So after looking through a variety of options, these were basically the top three. So I gave you a little chart there, which is letter C. Those were basically the top three. My preference would be the middle one called Meraki. They have a couple advantages the other ones don't have, but this is, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So there's a hardware column, what it costs for the actual devices themselves, what it costs for the service to manage them. And then the next column is static IP, which is it was required for some services to have a dedicated connection from site to site. The one-time cost is the upfront cost for those, and then the annual cost at the end there. So the Meraki has the more expensive annual cost. The advantage with that one is that's a total of a 5-year cost. And their hardware is completely under warranty while you have a license. The other ones have a 90-day warranty. So that is a 5-year warranty on all of the hardware as part of that. So
look,
You
the
said
2331,
yes,
is that annual or is that
No.
split over 5 years?
that's 5 years. So that's
Okay.
why the right-hand column where it says total annual cost is $466.
Uh-huh.
Because it still is a per cost per device breakdown. And that's on their second page there. Where it has it's basically like where they break it down. But it's a 5-year license. So we pay up front for the 5 years.
So they're the most affordable is what you're saying.
They are. It also requires the lower actual annual costs.
Yeah.
Because the static IP is required $20 per month per site, and we have 7 sites. So and their management is cloud-based versus the other ones being hardware-based, so we can actually manage it from other locations, which gets a little more complicated, but I get it. So but that basically allows us to have some functionality which is a little more flexible than the other ones are. And so what this is going to allow us to do is to put in actually a longer range over the other ones too, but wireless internet at every one of our buildings in town. So people can go to any one of them and use it for no cost.
I don't know, it looks to me like the middle one is the better deal all around.
So it seems like
It
yeah.
is.
It is the better deal.
I spent about 2 hours on a call with a company, one of the state bid companies, and that's the actual retail cost of their hardware is $14,000. But with our state bid pricing and the 5-year license, it goes to $3,600. So that was good. So that was 100% the state contract got us that price. So so there is not a specific line item in our budget at the moment. But I wasn't sure if capital improvement would be an appropriate use for this, because this is rolling out something new and it's across the town wide. It's not a incredibly large expense, but we'd be looking at it'd be $59.94.12 is their total. But after everything I'm looking through, they were absolutely the one that stood above the rest of them.
Total of what again, Bill?
That's the second page. That's where it says connection sales quote. That's the
59.
Yeah.
12, okay, yeah. We need a motion on this?
You would, yes.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, for the sake of getting the discussion going, I'll move that we accept the Meraki bid for internet.
Not to exceed $59.94.12.
Yeah.
I'll second.
There's a motion and there's a second on the floor, and is there discussion?
Other towns,
Mhm.
do we know of any others that have used this, and are they satisfied with this provider?
There are a lot of providers, and no one really publishes who you use. You don't normally do that. You can publish like that, you have it, but not generally getting into the what. That's more of a internal, like just choice. So
So we don't know if other towns are using this.
specifically, no.
Yeah.
There's other ones that we've used.
Comes up and then it just shuts right back down.
Are you hot?
Yes,
Would you like me to change it to air conditioning?
yes. How long is it was going to take you to ask me that?
Well, that's how you're not going to change it that way.
No.
No.
Obviously, I've tried that.
You got to slide the door
You gotta
down
slide the remote apart.
and hit the mode button.
You sat over
Change it
there
from-
knowing it,
change
watching me go
as
through
a
this picture?
little picture of the snowflake.
Gotta learn sometime.
There's a lot of different.
See how much we're trusting you on technology.
Yes. For the snowflake, hit the snowflake.
Don't hit the snowflake.
There, snowflake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it on?
Snowflake.
You can give it to me. I can do this a lot faster.
All right, let me try it.
There.
There you go.
Done.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's gonna blur,
Hallelujah.
that's gonna blur papers all over the place.
Instructions.
That's gonna blur papers all
Bill's
over the
good
place.
teacher.
So there are a lot of different vendors
Oh, does that
for
Yeah,
hard.
if these guys are any good according to other towns,
There's
that's-
nobody local that's used them. I've looked up. They're comparable with a lot of other brands. Really what it comes down to is the actual performance of the hardware, and getting into some of the nitty gritty specifications. They have a better signal strength. They can cover a larger area with less devices. So we actually need less devices with this than we do with other ones. Yes.
So if it's not working out, and I'm remembering.
Well, it's not really.
The photocopiers years ago.
Yeah, so these are new, not used. It's a 5-year license. So we're buying the license from them for 5 years, and all the hardware is covered under their warranty for that period of time. So the other ones expire 90 days to 1 year from date of purchase, regardless of how long you actually have a license for it. They all require a license of some sort. The most widely used one, I would say, is Ubiquity. They are also the most expensive and the hardest to manage. Trying to get information on how to build their network was very difficult. The company I ended up going to sells the company called Connection. They don't just sell this one, they sell a variety of them. He's like, we spent a while talking about what we want to do, how we want to do it. He's like, this is the one that's going to be best for you.
So we have to purchase the cost for hardware. We purchase it, we
Yes.
own it. However, it's covered for 5 years with
Yes,
the warranty.
correct.
All right. And that's a full warranty, not a limited warranty.
Correct. Right. It covers each of the devices. And it's the easiest network to manage the way we would want to do it. I mean, most of them are designed for large corporations where you have a building
Center,
and you have one building where you're having multiple access points. We have 7 buildings, and that's a little more complicated to manage, where this one makes it very much easier.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Comments? So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 And I hearing no negative votes, so the motion carries and you are authorized to contract.
All right. Letter D, for new business and
Oh, yeah.
in the packet is the certificate of substantial completion for Town Line Road. And at our meeting this morning, we talked about this, and I think everybody was satisfied with the work. So this just allows the project to move forward to, they're going to set that way Pavians can actually bill us.
So it's not substantially complete.
Okay.
The shrubbery has not, to my knowledge, been planted. Had a conversation with the town attorney and had a conversation with Robert Clark about the shrubbery and the agreement that we all were part of on site as to what we would do to complete the project to the owner's satisfaction. And at that time, it was decided that we would plant shrubbery. And one of the specifications they had was 8-foot arborvitae, which was a cost of $700 a piece. Well, on
No.
advice of attorney, to complete the project, we needed to get those trees, and Fabian needed to put them in.
Okay.
Now, not in the spring, but now, because arborvitae will take hold if they're put in properly. They can be planted even up to November or December, actually, but in any case, the further justification of that really is a matter for executive session, but the bottom line was that we need to, and that's all we need to do is put that shrubbery in.
But how many of those trees at $700?
6 or 7. I was going to, Robert Clark was going to be measuring to see what we had told them was that they wanted screening from that window to the town line road, and that would provide it. Now, whether we could get a deal on 6-foot trees as opposed to 8-foot trees, I don't know. He was gonna be dealing with New Haven Nursery.
So why don't we just move to table this until next meeting and we might have that information.
I would say we should.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Motion to table,
Second,
seconded. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Me.
Okay. Table till next meeting.
They don't.
And I'll get a hold of Robert Clark this week and we'll see. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay.
Hey, Dave.
Night, Dave.
The next thing in your packet, letter E, is I got a employee list from Kari.
Oh.
So this is the list based upon what I got for all town employees. When we talked about signing the personnel policy, that is who you decided you wanted to have it. And the signed page received column with the X's in it is the compliance so far. So, I will
there it is.
update this for you as I get more, but that is where it stands at the moment. Letter F is from Howard. That is the map we talked about, the 911 address for the Green Mountain Plaza parking lot. And you'd asked for a map showing the area, the addresses, and what it would look like, and there you have it.
There it be.
There it is.
I like the one he sent us or from the state with all of the
300-foot circles.
Oh geez, all the circles
That's the
everywhere.
Jeep. So that,
Venn diagram.
so if you like basically calling 911 from your cell phone, it's going to map to 300 feet.
Yeah.
That's they're basically, you can't go anywhere in there without being close to a store. So that's I think what that was. But that was the first iteration. You sent me another one just the other day. So but that was the first one, just showing what that would look like. So there you have it.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think I don't know, we erred on the side of our police department because that's what they recommended. But I didn't happen to agree with that. And after seeing this diagram that the state has sent, I disagree with it even more. I just don't see any downside whatsoever to using the 300-foot because it covers every single part of that parking lot, but it links it to a particular store location.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. But didn't we already take an action? Didn't we already vote on
Yes,
it?
it would, we would have to rescind the action and it would have to be somebody that voted in favor of it, which we all did. So
I guess, and the chief has stepped out. So
Maybe we'll have to.
that might be one we table until the chief is back in and we can talk with him about it.
or we go
Well,
get
there's
it.
nothing that's really table. I mean, it's just this was
This is
just an informational item. So
Yeah, all right, because we've already taken the action.
Yeah.
I could see where
I
this
can add it to the next agenda if you like.
for his tracking purposes of calls, this makes sense.
They wanted parking. They wanted to be able to-
the 296.
Right.
That for tracking their calls, they want to know if
That's
there's
true.
a call in their parking lot.
Yeah, as
They-
opposed to us in a store.
In a store.
They wanted to
Right.
differentiate parking lot incidents from store incidents.
Which makes sense. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I've seen a lot of messed up 911 stuff, so I don't know if we can really mess
Ain't
it up
that the
much worse. That works good for our police department. It's easy for them and easy for us to track calls that they're having there, especially with what's going on down at that end. Maybe we just leave it be.
Yeah, I don't, to tell you the truth, in the distribution of the information about how this is done, I'm still not exactly sure whether we have the right to override the 911 coordinator. I mean, I think the state has control of this, and if they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
No,
That's the way I understand it. But then I was also told that if the select board votes to do it, that they will do it. Now, that's a contradiction, but we did it.
I think for now, even if they get a 911 call to 320, Dick's, and it's in the parking lot, they'll put on their report 296. So then at least our department can track it.
Yep.
The 911 call might come in different, might not come in as 296, but for their report, they'll have 296 and then they can track it. It's all gonna get them to the same place either way.
I don't know. It's informational only, so there you go. Until somebody barks louder than the next guy, you won't find.
Let it ride.
All right. So, the last thing in your packet were the blank budget sheets
Oh, yes.
for your budget planning purposes. So,
Now, do you have a master of this list for signature on the personnel policy?
that is my master list. I just printed it out for you. Yes.
No, but where do we sign? Do we sign the one we have, or do we sign the one you have?
Personnel policy?
Yeah.
I gave you all copies
Yeah,
a few meetings ago.
yeah.
No,
So what-
That's not the personnel policy. That's just the people that have that's the list of all the town employees. Because when we talked about it, he said, anybody that gets a check from the town signs the policy. So that is for you to follow up with whomever you'd like to say, hey, you haven't done it yet.
It's missing us, isn't it?
Might
Well,
be missing a couple of you.
I'm in there, but I did it as elected only. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay, then
Yeah,
I'm
because
good.
there's just the elected part of it.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yes. So the yellow columns are people that are elected that are on that special other part of it.
okay,
I am
I
there.
continue to ask the
In a
question,
different spot.
where do we sign so that it's all on one master list? You have the list. It says here that Mary Ashcroft has signed.
Right. So
Where did she sign?
I have her acknowledgement
Separate
page.
Piece of paper that came with the personnel policy.
Right.
There were two, actually. One
Yep.
was for elected officials.
Right,
One was for others.
yeah.
So I kept the personnel policy and I signed the one that said elected official.
Yep.
Sounds like you
Okay.
should sign it.
Back
now.
back and look.
Sounds like Don needs
Anyone
to sign
needs
it.
copies, I can easily make more.
Yeah.
No problem.
No
Yeah, it
problem.
was sitting on our desk. I signed it. I think I left it
Yeah,
on the desk.
that's fine. So,
I'm
Yes, I'm sorry.
Almost had
I'll
it.
get it.
It's okay. It's okay. It'll wait. I almost had it.
good enough.
So like I said, I'll update that as it goes along, and so you can just. Obviously, some departments are bigger than others, and they gotta have, like, Mike is gonna have a little challenge when it comes to the lifeguards when they
Yeah,
come around.
really. Yeah,
But the lifeguards have never signed the personnel policy before,
yeah.
and they ought
Did I
to.
hear that some people aren't willing to sign it?
I have gotten that feedback.
I have too.
Not
PD and the fire department.
maybe.
Yeah.
But
Well, I kind of got it
That's-
from one of the horse's mouths.
that's
I think there was some pushback from the fire department the last time too.
so there it is. If you have questions about it, we can go over if you want to, or we can move on, or
We may have to come up with a punitive policy.
It was one of those things when I joined the fire department, I was never even presented with it to sign.
Yep.
You know.
Well, I guess people have their personal opinions. I signed it.
One of the things I've heard about this, or I don't know if it was, I'm pretty sure it was referring to the personnel policy, is some scuttlebutt about, well, you got to be at every meeting and you got to do, it's like we're making people that are part of the towns, not necessarily the employees, but people who do stuff as different committees or different commissions or whatever, that they're going to be required to be at every meeting. I kind of heard that in a conversation. So there's some misunderstanding as to actually what the personnel policy is asking or telling.
Right.
Because I didn't read anything in there that says that if you were a select board member, you have to show up at every meeting, or you got to have somebody there. I mean, I didn't, or if you're a planning commission member, you've got to, be at every meeting, or you got to have a good reason not to be. That was kind of some stuff I've heard, which makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
No, I agree, Joe.
I didn't read that,
We're not a dictatorship.
but I didn't read that in there. I mean,
No,
people-
I didn't
I
either.
couldn't
but-
find it either.
Yeah, I haven't heard any reasons why, but yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
but like this
That-
is, we
that's
put it out there. And
something
this
I
is,
Yep.
so
Anyway,
this is
moving on.
This is where we're at.
we tabled the bylaws. So we got left.
The last thing, under new business, we had, vendor permits for the October 22nd event. You don't have copies of them because there's like 20 something of them. So we had said that we needed to get the applications to be able to make a decision on what we wanted to do with the fees.
I would think it'd be appropriate to waive the fees on those because they're service organizations.
Didn't we have like a lesser fee for nonprofits? It was like
So-
$10 per?
Yes, but that's
Okay.
part of the amendment, which doesn't take effect until November 4th.
Yeah.
By the time this came through, the adoption window was we couldn't meet the requirement of the 60 days to get in there. So we had to basically come in to have, they had not submitted the application, and she came in and she's like, well, they make a decision. I'm like, you haven't given me an application, so they're gonna have to make a decision on. So she corrected that and got everybody to send me applications. So now I've got a bunch of them. So I have asked her, I haven't heard back, but I've also said that, their event is the 22nd. I said, you're gonna need to cut this off by like the 18th for applications, because it takes time to, we do actually have the police like check the names just to make sure, and just the time it takes to log these and
See that?
make the permit. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
By the time it takes to log them and create the permits, like it takes time. So I don't want her coming to me on the afternoon of the 21st saying, hey, I've got 3 more. I'm like, you're not going to get them. So, but that's between me and her to work that date out. So, but I've asked her to put a stop date for applications. But there's about 20 of them there.
Weren't we gonna donate the fees back to the Legion, the West Rutland Legion?
There was a couple of discussions, but we hadn't decided on anything. That was
Hadn't
one of the
decided
topics
on.
was charging like one fee and then taking the fee and
Donate
This
it
is
back.
for where?
Folsom's Plaza, Jump for Fun,
Say where?
Glory's
Jump for Fun Plaza, where we had Walt's retirement party.
Glory's Plaza.
So
Insurance company?
We're gonna take some time to kind of adjust into this new policy. I would say we just let them go this time.
Well, once we have the new ordinance, that's going to make things much easier, because there's a very, we added in some very short timeframes with some very small fees for that purpose.
But for purposes of them being happy with us and wanting to come
Right.
back under a policy where we could make some money,
Yeah,
I think it would behoove us just to say, hey, go ahead and have your
That's-
event.
that's your prerogative. But right
But I
now,
can't, I'm not making motions.
our old ordinance is in effect right now.
yes,
And
which
I do believe it had a waiver provision in it.
Yes.
it was, it basically said that it was up to the board to set the fees and the schedule. And that's why our new one, we just set a fee and set a schedule to make that easier.
Yeah.
But right now, basically it's open-ended. So the history was $100, but
In the interim,
yes,
we can make any fee or no fee.
correct. But we need to make a decision.
So it isn't that we're trying to make money, it's to reimburse us for Bill's time pulling this thing together.
Oh, my God.
No,
Oh,
no. that's
there-
the-
there-
these
Now
fees-
we're gonna.
This one?
Charge them $25 a piece.
This one probably takes more, this one's a little more involved than other ones are. Like a lot of them are just, yeah, you're all set.
Yeah.
Here you go. This one does take a little more.
I wouldn't do
Especially when
a
there's
vendor
20
one,
of them.
do a per event one.
Yeah.
And charge them, didn't we talk about $100?
That's what we typically have charged per license. So
Yeah.
I think we talked about that, and then
They don't out tell exactly what just a vendor.
I-
But what are they vending? I think we really should know.
Well, I don't disagree, and
Because if it's like
it's,
fireworks. that
well,
would
it's
be
a,
problem.
it was a craft fair, so,
Oh, okay.
that was, but she
Well,
does,
there's an insurance company
yeah,
there.
they're
What kind
actually,
of a craft is that? Well,
well, there's,
crafty.
there actually was a, there actually is a,
Wrong.
like a separate agreement she signed, that they signed with them for the event, and it has some other details on there. I can show it to you if you
All right,
like.
so I would move that we charge a $100 admin fee for the event,
The whole thing.
the whole thing, not per vendor for the event.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds
only
like,
$5 a piece at the number of people that
Yeah,
are down here.
that's-
yep, sounds like a
Chip
plan.
in.
Second,
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of $100 for the event?
I,
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Happy
It's
company.
unanimous. Have a happy event. Have a happy crafts fair.
I will get in touch with her and get that taken care of. So that takes care of
Takes
all
care
the
of
new business. We won't
the new
get into
business.
old business ones yet.
Vendor
Vendor permits. I will be out of the office on Thursday. I have a couple appointments. I put them all together, so I'm gonna be out of the office on Thursday. The November 8th meeting is a board meeting, but we gotta move it. It's election day.
oh, yeah.
What's
So,
that?
November 8th is a board meeting, but it's election day. So
We can't do that.
we can't do that.
What do we, oh, you know what we usually
Great
do is the night before, we do it up at the school and then we do the informational part of the town meeting.
That's the town. Yeah, that's in March.
That's for March. We don't do any.
We don't
such-
have a general election. Maybe we should have a town meeting.
You're not wrong.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
not wrong.
Have it Monday night.
Yeah, I'm sure the voters would love that.
Ready for 'em.
What do you want to do? The 7th?
think history is the night before.
Yeah, yeah.
What,
Encourages a short meeting because people working the election want to get out of here so they can get to the poll at
Yes.
7 o'clock in the morning. So
say what?
typically we've done it the night before, and that encourages a shorter meeting because the people working the polls want to get out of here because they got to be there.
Yeah,
7 o'clock
chatty
in the morning.
Cathy, you have to
I'm all
stop
for it.
chatting.
Hey, talk to the man
Just
just there.
Motion, we move our November 8th select board meeting. to
Second.
November 7th,
Second.
same time.
Motion's made to move the select board meeting of November 8th to the day before, which would be Monday, the 7th.
And make it snappy.
And
You can put that in the minutes, Bill.
all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Alright.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And it passes and we will meet on the 7th.
Okay. Last meeting, when we talked about budget sheets, you had indicated you wanted to kind of get into some of the budget planning. We have yet to schedule any committee meetings for budget planning purposes. So
Mike Rowe and I have the budget for the recreation done.
so I appreciate if you could send that to me and add it to my list.
So I'll repeat my request because I'm not on any of the money committees. If people could try and, set a date and let us know when it is. So if I can possibly attend, I will try to.
I'll stop over tomorrow, let you
The,
photocopy mine,
Perfect.
because he's going to be away. Well, out of commission. Whining.
On the general, I'm gonna have to meet with I'll meet with the listers separately. I meet with the town clerk.
I did tell the planning commission at the last meeting that their next meeting, they should have their first budget discussion, and the one after that should be their last budget discussion. So they should have a budget for you by the 17th of November and done. I mean, there's like all of 5 lines, so it shouldn't be very complicated, but
Okay.
yeah, I've already told them that they got to talk about that next time. So
And so what day is our select board meeting that considers all the pulled together budgets?
excellent question. What's your due date?
First time and sometime in December, like we did, I think, normally. And it should be it should be a night that's not a board meeting night. So it would be the first off
Agreed.
Tuesday.
Special meeting.
They are special meetings, yes.
It has to be. It has to be just for budgets.
That's right, Joey.
There's your.
I've done 7 or 8 of these, or 6 or 7,
You're an old timer,
can't-
Joe.
yeah, well, Mary and I have been here a while.
We have.
Yeah, I would say,
Are Mondays open for people?
So the
If we
board
do
meeting,
back to back select board meetings,
No, no.
Monday and Tuesday.
No, I'm talking the 12th.
Oh,
the
well,
board meetings in December are the 6th and 20th, I believe.
Yep. So
so we would do it in between on the 13th.
Or
13th is not a good number to do any
The
budget.
12th.
It's not Friday.
We'll
two,
go for the 12th.
or you,
It's a Tuesday.
if you wanted to shoot for the last Tuesday in November, it would be the 29th. Which,
No. Let's keep it in December. I don't care if we have to have it back-to-back meetings
Okay.
or what.
well, not
So this-
do it on the 5th.
so our regular meetings will be the 6th and the 20th of November, December.
How about Kurt's suggestion, the 12th? I mean, we can do then.
I like the 12th.
Kurt likes the 12th.
Yep.
I like the 12th. All I
Of
need is
December?
one more vote. We-
Okay, I'll go the 12th.
You go the 12th.
Get me the hell out of here.
Oh, you're not done
It's
yet.
12th. Okay, 12th.
Oh, yeah,
We're
well, that's a
rushing
Monday.
along. Would you
Special
please?
meeting budget.
I've got that on
But
there.
it's a good idea to give every
I want
department head a
bunk room in this
deadline.
place.
yes.
Say what? You got jumped on.
It just is a good idea if we have deadlines. So we'll do it at 6 on the 12th of December, and every department head now knows that they got to get with their committees and get this done and be ready to go. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
So, whenever you want to schedule the meetings, if I let me know and we'll get them coordinated and done. And I think that's everything I have. That's enough.
Yeah. Save the rest for 2 weeks.
That is.
Not all there is, but that's all I
That
have.
is, you know.
More than
And,
enough.
so there's no more,
Anything for me?
there's no more old business, there's no more new business. Executive session.
Yeah, we have the tracking ordinance.
Yeah, there's 3 things under old business.
So I
but-
make a motion that we table the tracking ordinance.
Oh,
until
permit
next meeting.
tracking.
Second,
Yeah, okay, motion's made and second. The next meeting is the 25th. And I'm supposed to be at the law school at a presentation about my program, so it's job related, so I'm gonna have to miss the 25th. Yeah, it's 25th.
I'll table it again.
I would like to say one thing about the tracking ordinance, though, and that is, and I might have said this before, but let me say it now. It include, the way I have read this, it includes agricultural building structures, including fences, the way I read this, zoning ordinances specifically exclude agricultural uses. Act 250 specifically excludes agricultural uses. If you adopt this the way it is, you are including a use that those other 2 things exclude, and it's going to be a more restrictive ordinance than
It
what you're
is the
thinking.
ordinance right now. That is the
Well,
ordinance.
again, so
So that's.
I think we've got work to do on it.
There were reasons beyond just wanting to change the formatting where why we should be looking at. a lot of
Yes,
these. There's-
indeed. Well, that's
there's
something
other
that
ones too.
jumps
So
out at me.
Highway's got theirs. Dave has gone through and made a bunch of edits that
Okay.
he's looking for. So I've tried to send them to the department heads first. And then so we can look at them, and there's some minor like spelling.
So it's going to
things or-
stay on the table for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's none of them have any real requirements other than just the desire to go through them, because some of them, like the subdivision one's 20 or 30 years old, like,
Yeah.
and it says zoning in it, like we've got, and it's actually they're working on taking the references to zoning out, because obviously we don't have it, but It very much
Yeah.
complicates the process when people are constantly asking, but it said you have running regulations. Yep, I know, but we don't. But it said you do. Yep, I know, but we don't. So,
But it says you do.
but it says we do.
So was that motion to table until the next meeting or an indefinite period of time?
Who made the motion?
Indefinite period of time then.
Okay,
Well, then you just say it's a motion to table and you don't
Yeah,
you don't
need to-
mention a time. It doesn't come off the
Second.
table until somebody moves that it comes off.
I'm
second.
not
the
looking
motion
forward to
ta-
taking it off the table.
Okay, motion
Well,
to table,
It's an important one. It really is.
motion to table tracking ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Because we
Aye.
gotta do something.
All Opposed?
No, we-
All right, credit card policy.
where are we on that?
That was the moving, oh, and I think, didn't we adopt that? Because we went through some of the, I had a few changes.
Oh, you know
to
what?
it.
I didn't include it.
Okay.
That's me. So, we had some changes. Well, I don't think we adopted with the change. I don't know. I'll go back. in a
It's
minute.
possible we adopted it with the changes, but let me, what are the minutes?
Yeah, might be in the minutes,
Yeah, let's see.
And we can try again in 2 weeks.
but I did add the language to it. Like we talked about. Yeah. Cause it talked about like invoicing for the method and all. Yeah. That's all in there. Just.
By me.
Oh, you know what? The business permit tracking ordinance is still, you put it on the table last time without any specific date.
Yeah, it's
so
still there.
Well, there it
It's
is.
still there.
It's on it.
Okay,
So it's just going to stay there until.
good.
Yep. Till we want to pull it off.
Okay, some changes were suggested and will be included in a new draft. This will be taken up at the next meeting.
Okay. There
So
you go. So I didn't
that's on
include
that
it.
one.
So I'll put it back in the,
Okay,
I'll put it in the packet for the next meeting
Okay.
to,
I like this, productive.
I didn't see any adoption, so we didn't adopt it.
Nope.
the social service one really, I don't think had many changes. I think it was just had been a long time since it was out there. So wanted to give it a little more public attention before because we actually have a couple now, or we're up to a couple organizations now asking us about it. So
if you do.
'Cause they're getting-
every year. Yeah,
right as we get closer to the end of the year, it's good. That's when they're gonna start sending them to us. But so I'd rather get it. I would like to get that one wrapped up so that way before they send them to us, we can send it out. Because once they send it to us, it's like, oh, by the way, now you got to follow our rules.
Well, make no mistake about it, I'm not done with the $100,000 deal, so, you know.
well, Don, I would ask that you not take it up at the next meeting because I won't be here. So I would move we table it to the meeting of November 8th.
7th. November 7th. We just moved.
Oh,
the
we
meeting.
moved to the 7th.
Oh, right.
We ain't scribbled that out
November-
yet.
November
I'll second that.
7th. Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be the quick meeting. That get right through it.
Kurt's meeting, November 7th. Anyways, yeah. Okay, we got anything more? I don't think we got any more.
did you want to vote on that or is it just done?
Done.
Yeah,
Your
it's
table
done.
that did it.
Fine.
Anything else for me?
No, unless you have questions of our town administrator.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
no.
Oh.
I move we go into executive session for purposes of discussing pending litigation and
Oh, yeah.
possibly a personnel issue. I phrase it that way because, anyway,
That's okay.
but we're in.
I'll shut the door so the mice can't listen in.
Okay,
Second hour.
Do I have 5 minutes to go to the liquor? Take this
I
in.
told you,
Have executive session.
we are, but we don't vote to come out.
Now.
No, okay, I
Okay,
move we
well-
adjourn.
Second.
All right, now I'm seconding it.
Hi.
all those in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed? Nay?